Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has all elemental affinities council bashing. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by AlexDnD, link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Prologue. Kakashi walked along the paths of Konoha. Hokage-sama has made it clear this wasn't an optional choice. He was to lead Team 7, he was to personally mentor Sasuke, as well as ensure the Nine Tails did not break free from Naruto. While Kakashi was incensed at first, in truth he had begun to look at it quite differently. Here was a chance to repay his sensei the Yondaime Hokage for all that he had done. He would train his child to be a splendid shinobi in honor of Minato. Kakashi was one of the privileged few to learn who Naruto's parents were. He had not been told until a few weeks ago. He had been irritated at being left in the dark, but he understood the Sandaime's motives. The elite Jonin wondered if he would still have been chosen if he hadn't turned his life around. After the deaths of all of his precious people, his father, his teammates and his sensei, he had begun to exhibit signs of mental stress. He started showing up extremely late, he began reading his erotica openly in the public, and he had become detached from everyone and everything. He had not made close bonds with others, but on one of his hour-long homages to the memorial stone, something had snapped inside of him. Would all of them have wanted him to be on this path? No, they wouldn't. They would want him to serve Konoha to the best of his abilities. He had resolved to begin acting like a proper shinobi. To that end he began to train himself and work missions at a regular clip. His time in Anbu was marked with a high level of efficiency. His mission success rate was second to none. Kakashi was not considered to be at the level of the Sannin or the Hokage, but he was considered close. No other Jonin in the village was at his level. Kakashi chuckled at the thought of Guy's angry denials of his eternal rival being on a higher level than him. But simply put, he was. And now he was a Jonin in charge of 3 cute little genin. Kakashi had been hailed as a genius. Now he would bend his incredible abilities to being the best possible sensei he could be. There would be no wasted time. He would make them shinobi Minato would have been proud to fight with. This should be interesting. Chapter 1. Let the training begin. Kakashi's first impressions of his new team were not complimentary. Everything from attitude to abilities was a disappointment. Despite that, they did eventually muster up enough teamwork for him to pass them. What did I get myself into here? Kami, I better get started or they'll be annihilated on their first real mission. Kakashi gave his new team an eye smile. They were all pleased that they had passed the test. But it was no time to celebrate, their training was to begin. Congratulations, you are all shinobi ready to take missions on behalf of the village. He allowed them to bask in their satisfaction for a bit and then continued. Starting tomorrow you will be given a D-ranked mission. It might mean walking dogs, weeding, or maybe even. Naruto interrupted with a jump and a yell, what? Give us a real mission. Kakashi blazed forward with a speed that none of his team could even follow. His fist collided with Naruto's stomach and doubled him over. Kakashi had pulled the punch, he didn't want to kill the kid after all. Naruto gasped for air as he collapsed on the ground. You do not make demands of me, genin. We are shinobi. I give orders, you follow them. When you are ready to take on more strenuous missions I will give them to you. But first you have to prove that all of you are capable of handling it. Sasuke grimaced. He couldn't do real missions until the dead last, and the stupid fangirl got up to the right level. This would hold him back. This would interfere with his development. When he first learned his sensei was Kakashi, he had been pleased. Kakashi was one of the elites of the village. He held the record for most A-ranked missions completed and he was still in his prime. Other than the Sannin or the Hokage himself, no one could match him. It was only fitting that he and Uchiha would have such a competent instructor. And now he was going to be held back before of his team. Sasuke was furious. Kakashi saw the anger in Sasuke's eyes. Problem, Uchiha? Sasuke glared, I will follow your orders, sensei. He glanced at Naruto who was still on the ground groaning before continuing, but this is foolish. I need to get stronger and these two are going to hold me back. Sakura shouted, yeah, we are just going to hold Sasuke-kun back. She trailed off when she realized she was included in Sasuke's frustration. Kakashi chuckled. Well then you know what you have to do then. Sasuke looked confused. You'll have to help train them up to your level and then we can go on advanced missions. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, I could get further on my own. Why should I waste time training the dead last? Kakashi moved and Sasuke was now the one on the ground. Because you little baka, this is a team. A team is only as strong as its weakest link. Success or failure on missions will be determined by how well a team works together. On the road while you sleep, someone on your team will be watching over you just as you will watch over them as they sleep. Do you want to be protected by a weakling? By someone incompetent? Sakura saw her beloved Sasuke-kun on the ground and shrieked at her sensei. What the hell is wrong with you? Why did you hurt my Sasuke-kun? Kakashi sighed and didn't even bother hitting Sakura. He just unleashed a healthy dose of his killer intent and she was soon curled in a ball on the ground. He paced back and forth while he waited for his team to recover. This team needs a lot of work and they need to get their heads on straight. Strict obedience is going to be required, but it wouldn't hurt to throw in a carrot or two. Kakashi made a mental list of what needed to be done first for each of his students. Naruto is a mess. He has stamina and drive but is too impulsive. His taijutsu forms are abominable and he has no chakra control. On the other hand, he has mastered the Kage Bunshin. He can be brought up to speed fairly quickly if it was used as a training technique. But Sasuke need to drill and teamwork and to care for his comrades. He's too arrogant to work with them right now. I'll have to hold out additional training as a reward for working with his team. He is a genius, he will pick up things quickly. His conditioning is good, but it's not where it needs to be in order to be the best. Kakashi thought about his eternal rival's training techniques and decided to incorporate them. And finally Sakura. Kakashi inwardly sighed. She was toxic to their team dynamic. I'll need to use her crush for the Uchiha boy as a means of motivating her. It feels wrong, but a shinobi uses what he has available. Right now she is hopeless, however the academy reports were glowing about her chakra control. Jinjutsu training would be just the thing, both Naruto and Sasuke will be powerhouses in direct combat, a more subtle flair will help round the team out. As his 3 students finally recovered they eyed their sensei nervously. I have just passed you and you have already made me regret my decision. Let me make this clear. We are a team and I am your leader. You will follow my instructions, you will not mouth off, and you will respect me. Moreover, you will respect your team. You are no longer in the academy, you are shinobi. You are part of the military arm of taijutsu and I expect you to compose yourself as such. Is that clear? All 3 genin hastily responded with "Hi sensei." Kakashi nodded firmly. Tomorrow we will begin rank D missions, however the rest of today will be training. Kakashi brought his hands together and performed the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, creating one clone. The clone said, "Sakura, Sasuke over here, we will work on taijutsu." The original Kakashi turned to Naruto, "Your scores at the academy were abysmal in everything, so we need to do remedial work." Naruto flushed and almost said something, but his gut was still sore from the vicious punch. But he's learning to keep his mouth shut. Kakashi touched Naruto's shoulder, "But don't worry, I am your sensei, so before you know it, you will surpass all the other genin in Konoha." Naruto shouted out in joy, "Yeah, and then I'll be the Hokage, believe it." Kakashi let out a groan. "Not so loud Naruto, you are shinobi." Naruto was literally hopping up and down ready for his training. "First make 10 clones using Kage Bunshin," Kakashi ordered. Naruto concentrated and shouted, "Kage Bunshin," and 20 clones appeared. Naruto rubbed the back of his head, "Oops." Kakashi shook his head, "Your chakra control is awful, but for now this works just as well." Kakashi pulled out 4 books from a storage seal. He handed one book to the clone and told him to read a paragraph. The clone started to read, "The village hidden in the leaves was founded in." Kakashi shook his head. "Stop, read it to yourself." The clone obeyed, and after a minute Kakashi asked the real Naruto, "Do you know when the village was founded?" Naruto flushed, No, I guessed I missed that part of the lecture in the academy, but who needs to know about all that boring stuff anyway?" Kakashi twitched. Did the academy teach him nothing at all? Naruto, to shinobi information is life. Knowledge is more powerful than any jutsu. I have seen comrades die due to a lack of information, and I have killed to suppress information. Naruto looked ready to argue, but Kakashi let out a small burst of killing intent, quickly shutting the boy up. "I expect you to learn, Naruto, you will be the team's knowledge base and tactician. You will memorize the bingo book and know everything there is to know about the 5 major hidden villages." Naruto's jaw dropped open, That's impossible. I see, can't do it. Let Sakura-chan do it, she's super smart." The famous copycat ninja smiled underneath his mask, "Naruto, while she may be more intelligent than you have something that she cannot replicate." "Like what?" Kakashi demonstrated by kicking the clone who had read the passage on the founding date. Naruto blinked, the clone's memory of reading came back and he knew the date. Naruto looked dumbstruck for a moment and then the light bulb went on. "Wait, anything my clones read I will know." Kakashi nodded, his pupil wasn't so foolish after all. "Yada. That means I never have to read anything again." Kakashi's eye twitched. "Must not murder my genin. Must not murder my genin. Must not murder my genin," Kakashi silently repeated in his head over and over again. "More importantly, Naruto, your chakra reserves allow you to read books faster than the quickest, most intelligent shinobi. You will be a font of information to your team, you will be able to quickly identify threats and relay information to your team about what to on watch for. This will be one of the key roles on the team, can you handle it?" Naruto shouted his response, "You bet I can." "Believe it." Kakashi feared he would develop a facial tic, why couldn't the boy act like a shinobi? Suppressing a sigh, he handed out the rest of the books to the clones. One was a book on the history of the Leaf Village. The second book was actually a bingo book that the real Naruto was oohing over before Kakashi ripped it out of his hands and gave it to a clone. The third book was a book Chakra control, and finally the last book was a field manual on how to care for shinobi implements like kunai, ninja wire, kunai, scrolls and supplies. After Kakashi handed out the books he had the clones start to read them, well he turned to the real Naruto. Alright Naruto, up first is perfecting your chakra control. Naruto grumbled, when am I going to learn a cool jutsu? Kakashi had the urge to punch the blonde-haired brat again, but he had learned how to control his emotions back when he joined Anbu. Naruto, you cannot learn powerful jutsu without control. Once you have completed the tree walking exercise I will teach you a jutsu. Naruto jumped, well then let's get started, I'm going to be the best tree walker ever. Naruto paused for a second and looked up at his sensei, what do you mean tree walking? The older shinobi put his hands up, first things first, the basic chakra control exercise, the leaf concentration exercise. Naruto gave a heavy sigh, that stupid exercise Iruka-sensei tried to teach us in the academy. I'm a ninja, not a little kid. Kakashi struck instantly, this time a brutal snap kick to his face. Naruto crashed into a tree. You are a shinobi Naruto, that means obeying your military commander, me your Jinin instructor. Act like a shinobi or you will learn no jutsu from me. Naruto growled and stared up angrily, with his blue eyes focused on the one exposed eye Kakashi had. Yes Kakashi-sensei, I'll act like a shinobi. Kakashi helped the boy up. Alright then Naruto, it's time to do the leaf exercise, let me show you. He took a leaf and placed it on his forehead. The leaf began to spin slowly in a circle. Now you try. The young orphan took a leaf and placed it on his head and concentrated on it. The leaf did not move. Imagine your head has energy. Slowly concentrate on that energy and imagine it slowly spinning like water down a drain. Kakashi's voice spoke slowly and almost hypnotically. Naruto concentrated and then felt the leaf leave his forehead. Kakashi saw the leaf blown away with quite a bit of force. Kakashi gave an eye smile and said, now that you've felt the energy you know what to do. Next time focus on control and imagine the energy moving slower. Naruto picked up another leaf and Kakashi shook his head. Remember Naruto, everything your clones learn you learn. Have your clones all work on the leaf exercise. Naruto's clones quickly got to work and leaves were flying all over the place. Kakashi beckoned Naruto to follow him away from the whirlwind of leaves. Alright Naruto, 2 final items to your training that we will go over today. The first is your taijutsu. It reminds me of a drunken civilian brawl. It's sloppy, wasteful and the opposite of how my team will operate. We will spend the next 2 hours correcting your forms. Naruto stifled a groan, Kakashi-sensei hit hard and he did not want to get hit again. While Kakashi had gone over the training with Naruto, his clone was working with Sasuke and Sakura. Alright, well the real me works with Naruto, I will work with you too. First I want to see a taijutsu spar, first one down on the ground loses. Don't break any bones, we'll be doing several spars in a row. Sasuke smirked at the fangirl, this would be easy. Sakura raised her hands and took a hesitant step back. She had to fight her Sasuke-kun. The clone raised its hand and brought it down. Begin. Sasuke immediately rushed forward and sent a hard punch streaking toward Sakura's face. Sakura dodged to the right and tried to grab the arm, but Sasuke quickly followed the forward motion of his punch, with his body flipping forward and around, causing his heel to smash into the kunoichi's head. Sakura collapsed onto the ground clutching her head. Pathetic, Sasuke thought to himself. Kakashi agreed with Sasuke's internal thoughts. Alright Sasuke, why did she lose? Because she is weak. Sakura felt a stab of hurt in her heart. No, describe for me the physical mistakes she made in the spar. Sasuke quickly analyzed what had occurred. She was slow on her dodge, if she was quicker she might have been able to grab my arm and throw me. And then when I flipped around she should have seen the move and jumped back. Kakashi nodded, good, that was a sound analysis of the spar. Again. Sasuke readied himself as Sakura got up on wobbly legs. Begin. Sasuke surged forward again, this time striking towards the abdomen with a kick. Sakura managed to block the blow with her arm, but winced from the contact. She was shoved back a foot and lost her balance, catching herself right as Sasuke fired a kick towards her head. She barely had time to duck. Sasuke spun and fired another kick. Sakura, still off balance, could do nothing else but block, and again she stumbled backward. Sasuke sneered in disgust. This was pathetic. Even the dope could do better than her. Sakura got back her balance and watched Sasuke wait for her attack. She tried a palm strike to his head which he deflected with an upward rising block and struck out with the same hand that blocked, catching Sakura in the throat with stiffened fingers. Sakura collapsed onto the ground struggling to breathe. Kakashi frowned, if you injure her so she cannot continue the training stops until tomorrow. Sasuke scowled, well he had learned nothing yet he knew Kakashi could teach him. Kakashi again had Sasuke analyze the fight. Sasuke went over the fight pointing out Sakura's mistakes. When you unlock your Sharingan you will see even deeper than what you are pointing out now. This is good practice and by watching every movement closely it's theorized that you could unlock it sooner. Kakashi saw Sakura struggle to her feet, again. Sasuke raised his eyebrows in surprise. So that was the point of this little exercise, preparing him for the Sharingan. Sasuke smirked a bit, maybe his sensei did know what he was talking about. They sparred and analyzed another 5 bouts. At the end Sakura could barely stand. She was bruised, exhausted and dispirited. The Kakashi clone looked at her and shook his head. "Naruto, your stamina is pitiful. What is your typical workout routine?" "Kakashi-sensei, I only worked out at during academy." The clone twitched. "Do you have any desire at all to be a shinobi?" Sakura's inner voice shouted, "Hi, I need to be a shinobi to be close to Sasuke." Sakura wisely did not repeat those words out loud. "Hi, I do sensei, I didn't know I needed to." Kakashi glared at her, "Before we meet in the mornings you are to get up, stretch and run 3 miles. Every day after we are done with training here you will work on Jutsu forms for 1 hour. Hi. I can do nothing else physically with you right now, so take this leaf and work on your chakra control." The clone went over what he wanted her to do and was surprised when she could rotate it on her first try. Add another leaf and rotate one clockwise and the other counterclockwise, keep working at it until it becomes difficult for you to move the leaves. At that point your chakra will be depleted and you will need to stop. Do not continue working this exercise once it becomes difficult. If you suffer chakra exhaustion you'll be useless for days. Sakura went over to a nearby tree and began to spin leaves. The clone turned to Sasuke, "Walk with me." They walked a bit away and Sasuke wondered what his next training was going to be. "Sasuke, you are no doubt this year's most gifted academy student." Sasuke didn't change his facial expression, but inwardly he smirked. "And as you said before, the team is just going to hold you back." Sasuke nodded and responded in a way that he thought Kakashi would want him to respond. "You are right, sensei, that was my thought, but I see the wisdom in having strong allies when a mission incorporates multiple objectives in separate locations. As well as when they are at watch during their shift at night." Kakashi clapped his hands. "You said exactly what you thought I wanted to hear. But I am not an academy instructor, I am not a Chunin, I am an elite Chunin. I am honed in the arts of deception. I can detect lies and half-truths through minute movements in your breathing, your pulse and your speech mannerisms. And all of that tells me is that you are a liar." A massive wave of killing intent forced Sasuke to back up before he tripped over his own feet. "Right now I don't care if you feel they are holding you back or not, it is important for you to help them become stronger. I will not hurt you for having rational discussion on the subject, but I will not put up with a false front. Tell me how you really feel." Sasuke relaxed as the killing intent left. And then he grew angry. What right did this man have to lecture him? He was the last Uchiha and he had to avenge his clan. "Fine sensei, I'll tell you I feel. I'm stuck with dead last and a pathetic fangirl. She doesn't even do a minimal amount of conditioning. I am strong and they are weak and I must sacrifice my time and energy fixing their incompetence. The strong should not have to teach the weak." The Kakashi clone chuckled. "If I follow your logic correctly then because you are stronger than they are you shouldn't have to teach them." Sasuke nodded. "So since I am stronger than you I shouldn't teach you then?" Sasuke froze and then said, "That's different." Kakashi shook his head, "No it is not. This is Konoha, here the strong help and support our weaker members. Our Hokage allows civilians to make decisions in this village even though they have no power. We are strong so we can protect others." Kakashi could see he hadn't gotten through to the boy, but hopefully this discussion would make him think. "Your beliefs are your own, Sasuke, but if you want to learn the jutsu I have, then you will help me bring them up to par." Sasuke nodded, he had no choice, he had to get more powerful. "Hi Kakashi sensei. But now let's talk about your own conditioning." Sasuke frowned, "I run plenty, I practice my taijutsu daily for hours, and I even practice ninjutsu." Kakashi stopped by the tree where he had placed the weights. Sasuke was a little unnerved that their conversation finished at the exact spot where the clone pulled out a package from behind the tree. That kind of planning was impressive. "These are leg weights and a weighted vest. The vest weighs 20 pounds and each leg weight weighs 5 pounds. This is just a start, but this will make your workouts more strenuous and will improve your speed when they are removed. I will caution you to be precise while you work with them. Fractures are more likely to occur when wearing additional weights." Sasuke gave his trademark smirk, "And I guess Sakura might last a bit longer if I'm slowed down by this." Kakashi moved on to the next subject, "For the rest of today, I want you to work on chakra control." Sasuke frowned when he was not able to twirl the leaves in opposite directions on his first try. Kakashi grinned under his mask, "Found something Sakura can do better than you?" Sasuke scowled and redoubled his efforts. "Meet in front of the Hokage Tower at 8 AM. We'll do our first mission as a team and then it's back to training." Sakura thought about the sparring matches. She had gotten destroyed by Sasuke and that was with him holding back. Sakura shivered, was she really that weak? She had seen the contempt that Sasuke had for her taijutsu. Sakura felt tears coming in but forced them back. She would not cry. She was a shinobi. She would do the conditioning and get stronger. For her team, for her Sasuke-kun and for herself. Naruto finished the Taijutsu form's training. His stance and form had improved considerably, but he had yet to even spar with it. Kakashi froze for a split second while his clone popped finished with Sakura and Sasuke. These genin are so frustrating. I'm going to have to report to Hokage that the academy is failing this generation utterly. Alright Naruto, dispel your clones. Naruto complied and froze for 2 seconds as the collected memories and knowledge filled him. Kakashi lightly did a leg sweep knocking Naruto on the ground. In a battle you would have been more than dead, anything more than a fraction of a second is too long. Don't dwell on the clone's memories, you have the knowledge. Naruto picked himself up, hi sensei. The former Anbu caption then had Naruto try the leaf exercise again. This time the leaf stayed on his head and started to twirl around. Naruto shouted with glee, yada. I did it. Now I can learn some truly awesome jutsu. What did I tell you earlier Naruto? Naruto thought frantically for several seconds, oh I need to do the tree walking thing before I learn jutsu. Correct. We will begin that tomorrow after our first D rank mission. In the meantime I have something for you. Kakashi pulled out a set of weights. These are 10-pound leg weights and a 40-pound vest. Wear these at all times, when you can move smoothly without them then we will increase their weights. Naruto tried them on and struggled to move with them. Also you'll likely hurt yourself if you move around in your normal rambunctious way, so don't go crazy with them. Kakashi looked at the boy's height and began to question him on his meals. Kakashi's eye twitched at the amount of ramen he ate to the exclusion of almost everything else. No wonder the boy's growth has been stunted. Kakashi proceeded to lecture Naruto on the proper food he should eat. Naruto complained about how he hated vegetables. Kakashi eyed the boy, while his statement was true he could sense more than that going on. Ah, the villagers must not be selling the boy food. Naruto, you are a shinobi. I will go shopping with you today for food. Naruto flushed, sensei I don't have money right now, I spent it all on the gear I needed for today's test. Kakashi eye flashed with rage for an instant, those kunai were new. They were rusted and damaged. Who the hell had been sabotaging a shinobi of the leaf? Where did you buy your kunai from Naruto? The weapon salesman near the training ground. Kakashi knew the place, not the best, but typically they sold appropriate gear. Alright Naruto, I'll pay for groceries this time, but we will be getting you proper food. Without proper food you cannot be a proper shinobi. Naruto was gloomy, he did not want to eat vegetables, and he did not want to be chased out of a store in front of his new sensei. Thank you Kakashi sensei, but it's fine, I'll manage. I wasn't making a request. Naruto gulped and nodded. His sensei was scary and had no qualms about beating his students when they refused orders. Kakashi, sensing a learning opportunity, walked Naruto back into the village proper. Naruto, I trust you are familiar with the Hinge no Jutsu. Hi Kakashi sensei. Use it to turn into Sasuke. Naruto was in fact not stupid. He was emotionally, physically and mentally stunted from the abuse the village had given him. However, beyond the handicaps his environment had provided him, he was the son of Minato, widely considered the most powerful shinobi the leaf had ever produced. Naruto showed his lineage by slamming his palm into his forehead. I am so stupid, Naruto shouted. I could have used a hinge this entire time to go anywhere I wanted, I could have used it to get away from the mobs, I could have. Tears began to leak from his piercing blue eyes. Kakashi felt a surge of rage, how could this village be so monstrous to one of their own? Kakashi vowed not to fail Naruto the way the village has. Kakashi stopped walking and Naruto turned toward his sensei, desperately trying to wipe his tears away. Naruto, I am your sensei, it is my responsibility and privilege to teach you. I will not condemn you for your past failures, all I expect you to do is learn from them. You have the potential to be Hokage, never doubt that. Naruto shivered, so few people had ever helped him. Iruka-sensei, Tuchi, Am and Jiji had been the only ones. And here was another. Naruto felt adrenaline surge through his body. He had hope for the future, true hope, not just blind defiance in the face of utter despair. Thank you Kakashi-sensei. I won't let you down. Naruto's voice was filled with conviction. But now let's get you some food. Chapter 2. Decisions. Naruto thought back on his day as he munched on the fresh produce. He didn't really like the taste of celery and broccoli, but if helped him become the Hokage then he could withstand it. His sensei was teaching him how to be a real shinobi and he was on Sakura-chan's team. He hated the fact he had to put up with Sasuke, but it was a small price to pay for all of the other pluses. The knowledge he gained from his clones' reading was amazing. Who knew that books could be so interesting when you didn't have to read them? And the bingo book was the absolute best. Those were missing nins who he might be hunting down very soon. Kakashi would have rolled his eyes at the eagerness to fight dangerous criminals, but Naruto's confidence had only grown after his conversation about using a hinge to buy food and supplies at normal prices. Naruto was even in bed reading the bingo book instead of having a clone do it. Naruto pored over the pages of Shinobi from C to S ranked. Naruto, being Naruto, spent a lot of time reading about S-ranked ninja. He learned about the Leaf's greatest traitor Orochimaru. Naruto was fascinated by Orochimaru's ability to summon a giant snake. He wondered if there were other animals a ninja could summon. He tried to think back to Iruka-sensei's classes, but it was all pretty hazy. Naruto stayed up far too late reading the book, but eventually he fell asleep. He was asleep and fully content with his lot in life because his dream had never been closer. Kakashi met with the Sandaime Hokage. Kakashi was agitated but respectful of his leader. Hokage-sama, my 3 genin have been crippled by the academy. Do all genin come out like this or am I just lucky? Sarutobi puffed at his pipe. Could you be more specific? Kakashi paced in front of the leader of the Leaf's desk. Where to begin? Let's start with Naruto. His taijutsu is awful. His chakra control is non-existent. He doesn't act or think like a ninja. I've had to physically attack him just to get his attention. The third side, Kakashi, he's had a hard life, and Kakashi held up a hand respectfully. Hokage-sama, that kind of attitude will get him killed. He is Shinobi. He is not a child. I do not tell you this in order to attack Naruto or to request him off my team. I tell you this so you can fix the academy. Sarutobi gave Kakashi's words consideration, and Kakashi continued. Naruto isn't the only problem. The next problem's name is Sakura. We were making introductions, and she couldn't complete a full sentence to her Jonin sensei without blushing and giggling about Sasuke. Again, what are they teaching in the academy? Sarutobi exhaled more smoke. Her parents are civilians, and she may not know the protocol of how to act as a genin. Kakashi was bewildered. How could the Hokage be defending this? The academy is for learning, why wasn't she taught how to maintain her composure? She is acting like a giggling schoolgirl as opposed to a trained weapon. Now you sound like Danzo-san. They may be weapons, but that is not all that they are, exclaimed Sarutobi. Kakashi twitched. If you coddle Shinobi you end up with dead Shinobi. I didn't stay long in the academy when I was a child, but from what I saw they had standards. I read over the test scores and practical exams, they only learn 3 jutsu. A third Hokage sighed deeply. Kakashi, you are often on missions away from the village. I applaud your sense of duty, but there is a reason the academy standards were softened. The elder Shinobi stood up on his weary legs and walked over to a window facing away from Kakashi. The civilian council wanted more of their children to pass the exam. They wanted their children to be Shinobi too, but with the standards as they were only the clan children were passing. Kakashi muttered, that's probably because their parents actually taught them how to be a ninja before sending them to the academy. And quite possible, however, our Shinobi ranks have grown because we have allowed civilians an opportunity to pass. And while other hidden villages may have more capable genin, they throw their lives away. We nurture and protect our Shinobi, only our most promising jonin can lead genin teams, and through the shelter of the mighty trees around them, they grow to be splendid Shinobi. Kakashi understood where the professor was coming from. He had obviously given it a lot of thought. While other villages produced superior starting genin, through the personalized attention of an elite jonin, the village hidden in the leaves produced a finer end product. In theory. But all that time was wasted in the academy was a sore point to Kakashi. And there was one final reason I accepted the lowering of the academy standards. Our finest Shinobi are child prodigies like you. Many of whom have physiological concerns. Before you snapped out of your depression you were starting to read erotic literature in public and showing up hours late to missions. Tell me, Kakashi, is that proper Shinobi behavior? What of my own students? One is an alcoholic gambler and another turned traitor to this village. No, Kakashi, this is the better way. Turning child prodigies into missing nin has caused more destruction than any lax standards. Kakashi knew the argument was over. He disagreed, but he was a keen enough judge of character to know that the Hokage would not be swayed. I have my work cut out for me then, Hokage-sama. They said their farewells and Kakashi went home to plan how he was going to fix his 3 Shinobi. The next morning the 3 genin made it to the Hokage Tower on time. Naruto had followed his sensei's instructions and had a dozen clones working on chakra control, while another 4 finished reading the books provided. He was a little tired from his late night, but his energy levels were such that he was still bouncing with excitement. Sakura was winded, she didn't even squeal about seeing her Sasuke-kun. Yesterday had exhausted her, and she was still breathing heavily from her run that morning. Sasuke was adjusting to the new weights well and was actually looking forward to training. They just had to get done with whatever stupid useless chore mission they had so they could start. Kakashi had their mission ready: locate and find a missing cat. The mission was harder than any of them expected, but it was finally done around noon. Kakashi was ready for their next lesson on chakra control. I promised to teach Jutsu after you completed the tree walking exercise. Here is what success looks like. Kakashi promptly walked up to the top of a tree at a slow pace. The key is to form chakra at your feet to stick to the surface. Too little chakra and you fall off, too much chakra and the bark will explode beneath you. I suggest getting a running start. Mark your progress with a kunai. All 3 of them eagerly began their task. Sakura didn't want her Sasuke-kun to look down on her like he had yesterday. Naruto of course wanted Jutsu. Sasuke also wanted Jutsu. He needed power and Kakashi could give it to him. It was a shock to all of the genin when bark exploded underneath the soles of Naruto and Sasuke's feet, but not Sakura's. Sakura actually made it all the way up the tree. Sasuke glared at Sakura, how the hell had she mastered this technique first? Sakura was pleased with herself until she saw Sasuke's face. She bit her lip, alarmed that she had ruined her chances with Sasuke-kun. Kakashi glared dangerously at the black-haired boy. Are you angry, Sasuke? Sasuke turned warily toward his sensei and responded with a curt no, Kakashi-sensei. Liar, Kakashi snarled as his form blurred. His kick smashed the Uchiha air in the side of his head. Sasuke flew 10 feet horizontally before plummeting to the ground. Damn it, I couldn't even follow his movements, let alone defend against it. Both Sakura and Naruto went still. Kakashi was radiating anger. Do not lie to your sensei, snarled Kakashi. You're pathetic. I told you that you couldn't do more difficult missions until your comrades' abilities met my standards. When one of your team demonstrates a superior ability, instead of being pleased you let your petty jealousy get in the way. No ninja, not even the Yondaime, is the best in every shinobi skill. Sasuke groaned and struggled to his feet. Kakashi rushed forward and Sasuke flinched when Kakashi stopped inches from his face. Which is it, Sasuke? Are you happy that your comrade's ability will mean you can do real missions, or are you still angry that she has better chakra control than you do? Sasuke breathed heavily, this hadn't happened to him since the massacre. No one talked to him like this, no one challenged him in this way. Sasuke knew a falsehood would just bring on more pain. Both, he shouted at Kakashi. I want to do stronger missions, but I should be the best. I am an Uchiha, how can I be behind her? How can I ever get as strong as I need to be if I'm not the best? I have to be the best, I have to get stronger, I need power if I'm ever going. Words failed him as he realized he had an audience. Kakashi backhanded him and Sasuke fell to the ground. Yelling at your Jonin sensei and other villages would get you a lashing. You're lucky I'm so nice, he glared down at the young battered Uchiha. I told all of you before that you are a team. Celebrate your teammate's successes, don't be jealous. Your teammate can show you how they did it, they can help you get stronger faster than if you were on your own. Naruto couldn't suppress a grin at what had just occurred. Kakashi had just put the oh-so-great Sasuke in his place. In front of Sakura too. Naruto had always been the one being lectured and now it was the rookie of the year's turn. Kakashi's eye twitched. He felt a spike of loathing flash through his body for his team. Perhaps he didn't have the right temperament to teach, perhaps he had given Iruka and the other academy instructors not enough credit. This was the second day and he already wanted to kill his genin. Kakashi whirled on Naruto and slammed him against the tree, his forearm on the boy's throat. I read the reports, Naruto. Or should I just call you dead last? Mocked by other students, mocked by even the instructors. I know you hated it, didn't you? Naruto struggled to breathe but croaked out an embarrassed yes. And yet here you are taking delight in someone else's failing. I regret passing the lot of you. Kakashi released his grip on the boy and Naruto collapsed down. Naruto felt horrible. He disliked the team, but his sensei was right. Given the slightest chance he had acted just like the other kids had when he got a question wrong. Filled with shame he made his way to his feet and walked over to Sasuke who was still on the ground with a shocked expression. Sasuke-san, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been happy that Kakashi-sensei attacked you. Sasuke looked at the blonde-haired boy in front of him. He couldn't stand the boy's antics and he couldn't stand the thought of being helped up by him. But Kakashi was watching. The one-eyed bastard was always watching. And damned it all, he was right too. He should be happy that his team had more potential. He grabbed Naruto's hand and let himself be helped up. Kakashi smiled underneath his mask. He suspected Sasuke had only accepted the hand up because he was watching, but all the same he had accepted the help. All right, now can any of you tell me why Sakura's control is the best? Sasuke answered, has she trained already with this? That would explain her ability. Kakashi shook his head, a reasonable guess, but no, this was her first time. Naruto furrowed his forehead and then shouted, I know this. Kakashi gestures for him to speak. It's because she has less chakra than we do, so she's able to control the right amount easier. Exactly, Naruto, you and Sasuke's chakra coils are much more developed. That means it will be harder for you two to gain fine control of your chakra. Sakura frowned, just when she thought she had done something great she learned that it was just because she was weak. Kakashi looked up at Sakura who was still up in the tree. Sakura, even with your lower chakra reserves your control is superb. You have a bright future ahead of you as a Genjutsu specialist, a medical nin or even an assassin. Naruto looked puzzled, assassin. Hi, because of her fine control she can hide her chakra signature easier, what's more her jutsu will be highly chakra efficient, meaning her kill strikes will be precise and hard to detect. Having lower chakra reserves does limit some of the larger jutsus, but chakra can be increased. While the analogy isn't perfect, chakra works like a muscle. Train with it every day and it will grow in size. It really was an overly simplified explanation, but Kakashi wasn't about to do an academy lecture. Sakura smiled, she had potential. She wasn't going to hold back Sasuke-kun. Since you do have chakra control, I want you to work on growing your chakra pool. Climb up and down the tree until it becomes strenuous to keep the connection. Then come down and we'll work on Jutsu. Naruto and Sasuke continued to race at the trees. Slowly but surely they were making progress. Naruto grit his teeth as Sasuke started pulling ahead in their race. Kakashi did more than just watch. He carefully guided them in chakra control. He gave each boy hints and tips where they could improve. Naruto, on the 5th step you start pushing out too much chakra, concentrate. Sasuke, your left foot seems to be the one giving you problems, don't overcompensate. Neither boy made it to the top before Sakura started feeling the effects of chakra drain. She walked back down and breathed out heavily, it's getting difficult for me to hold the connection, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi performed the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Alright Naruto, follow my clone, we'll do some more training while I have these two spar. Kakashi's clone took Naruto about half a mile away from the rest. Alright Naruto, it's time you used your training technique to master the tree walking exercise. Form 20 clones. Naruto concentrated and 23 clones popped out. Kakashi whistled, much better Naruto, I can't believe one day of chakra control practice has made such a difference. Even with your clones helping, that is impressive. Naruto beamed at the praise. Have half of them work on the tree walking exercise and the other half on the leaf exercise. Naruto questioned Kakashi, why not have all of them do the tree exercise? Because you haven't mastered the leaf exercise yet, you still have improvement to be made. When we get to elemental manipulation you'll want to understand your body's chakra inside and out. You're wasting daylight, get started. The real Kakashi was watching a repeat of the other day. Sasuke dominated the spars even with the light weights on. Sakura was clearly exhausted and was even slower than yesterday. The elite Jonin was not surprised, she had worked hard yesterday and until she caught up with her conditioning, she wouldn't be able to provide a good match for Sasuke. The raven-haired boy once again picked apart each spar with impressive detail. Kakashi had his doubts at first, but the academy was correct in their genius assessment. Sadly, being a genius didn't always translate into making wise decisions, Kakashi thought to himself. After the spars were done, Kakashi told Sasuke to continue working while he took Sakura for some additional training. 2 days ago Sasuke would have made a comment about how he deserved one-on-one training, now he just went HNN and continued to work on the tree walking exercise. Sakura wondered why her one-eyed sensei wanted to give her additional training. Right now her chakra was spent and she was exhausted. She couldn't think of any type of training that she could actually accomplish right now. Your chakra control is excellent, Sakura, tomorrow we'll work on water walking. But I want you to spend some time thinking about what expertise you want to have. Sakura considered her options. Assassination didn't sound like something she wanted to do. Jinjutsu was considered a rare talent and it could impress Sasuke-kun. Being a medical nin also sounded very interesting because she did like to help people. Her sensei saw Sakura think it over, don't make a decision now, Sakura. What I'd like you to do is check out basic medical nin textbooks from the Shinobi library. Those books can help you learn how to kill as an assassin by striking certain parts of the body and it can teach you the basic fundamentals of healing. The books won't teach you how to mold chakra to heal someone, but will give you the basic foundation of first aid and how the body operates. After you get a good handle on it, I will teach you a Jinjutsu. Once you have all of the information, I will allow you to make the decision on what you want to concentrate on. Sakura bit her lip, sensei, this is a big decision, wouldn't you know best? Kakashi smiled underneath his mask, a shinobi makes decisions every day. You will need to learn to be confident in the decision you make. You hold life and death in your hands when you go on a mission. If you can't decide what to specialize in, how can you make decisions on the field? Kakashi stooped a bit lower and lowered his face to hers, this is your choice, Sakura. Sakura nodded her head. At dusk neither boy had mastered the tree walking exercise, much to their frustration. Both of them were hungry to learn a jutsu or 3. After Kakashi called it a day, both continued to train. Kakashi laughed. They are going to regret this tomorrow. Chapter 3. Getting stronger. The next day it dawned and every member of Team 7 aside from Kakashi were quite sore. The weights weren't massively heavy, but they were making their presence felt. And for Sakura, who had never exercised this much in her life, it was pure agony. But through the pain she clenched her teeth and completed her morning exercise. The D-ranked mission of the day was pulling up weeds and cleaning up around a field. The mission actually finished quite quickly when Kakashi had Naruto use his Kage Bunshin technique. They were done in less than 2 hours, which made everyone happy. Naruto felt like he had contributed the most with his technique, Sakura was just glad she didn't have to pull any more weeds with her sore muscles, and Sasuke was eager for more training. As the team finished the mission, Kakashi took them back out to their normal training spot. Kakashi told them that today they would learn about how to handle themselves as shinobi in a fight. Naruto and Sasuke were to sit and practice rotating leaves on their forehead while Sakura paced up and down a tree as they listened. I'm going to share with you some of the lessons I've learned both as a shinobi and as an Anbu captain. Pay attention because these lessons are lessons that many shinobi refuse to learn. Kakashi looked at their expectant face. The first and most important lesson is only 2 words. Ego. Kills. All 3 looked puzzled. Shinobi can bend the elements. Some can't travel further and faster than any bird. Some can break rocks with their bare hands. This leads to pride, hubris, arrogance and ego. Wielding this power we feel invincible, and that is when we take stupid risks. That is when we die. The most danger you will ever be in is the moment you think you've won the battle. Never assume your opponent is defeated until they are dead. Kakashi paced back and forth. This was a passion of his. He couldn't stand the idiocy of other ninja. Why would you brag about your abilities? Why would you give information to your enemies? Along that same line of thought, never, and I mean never, explain to your opponent how your abilities work or how you were able to defeat their jutsu. Pride causes shinobi to brag about how their bloodline, special training or weapon makes them invincible. Such stupidity has led to strong shinobi actually losing to weaker and less powerful opponents. The 3 sat in stunned silence. All of them could see the appeal of showing how they defeated their enemy, but when they really took a moment to think about it, they realized it was pretty idiotic. Kakashi let the word sink in and then continued with his lesson. On a mission when it is time to kill. Kill. Do not toy with your enemy. Do not mock them. Do not test their abilities. Do none of those things. Kill them as quickly and as effectively as possible. Sakura swallowed heavily. There it was, talk about killing again. Naruto and Sasuke were not as affected by it. Naruto had been ready to kill Mizuki for trying to murder Iruka-sensei, and Sasuke had made it his life's mission to kill someone. It may not always be appropriate to use your most powerful jutsu, especially since the more powerful the jutsu, the more it may drain your chakra. If there is a significant probability of additional opponents, you may want to save your chakra. Maybe. All is contextual, but I'd rather you err on the side of overkill. And for the love of Kami, don't sit there and admire your jutsu. If your opponent is injured by your attack, follow up immediately. Before your attack even lands, start preparing for your next strike. Constant motion is required. Attack swiftly, relentlessly and without mercy. Kakashi stopped and met each of his students' eyes. Constant motion will keep you alive and your enemy unbalanced. Kakashi went on for some time explaining common sense rules that most shinobi seemed incapable of following. But it boiled down to some very simple truths. Hide your strength. Kill swiftly. Never assume you have won. Kakashi repeated the lesson until he felt that all of them had learned them. He caught Sasuke's eye when he spoke of arrogance. Naruto's eye when he talked about boasting. And every time he mentioned the word kill, he practically glared in Sakura's direction. Disobey my rules and I'll make you do D-rank missions until you're 50. Got it? Hi sensei, his genin squad shouted at once. Kakashi allowed a small thrill of pride to percolate across his body. It had only been a couple of days, but his cute little genin were turning into obedient shinobi. Alright, rant over, time to see their progress on the tree walking exercise. Alright, you two up the trees, Kakashi ordered. Naruto and Sasuke both raced up the tree, their skill had improved greatly. They were actually able to run up the tree, a combination of momentum, athleticism and chakra control allowed them to do it. Both boys felt triumphant, Naruto with a massive grin and Sasuke with a more subtle smirk. Kakashi almost regretted bursting their bubble. Impressive, you've mastered tree running. Too bad you'll need to master tree walking before you get jutsu. Both genin sagged in disappointment. Another day and no jutsu. Kakashi gave them an eye smile. I'm going to go work with Sakura on the next level of chakra control, try not to keep her waiting too long. Sakura glared at her sensei, was he trying to get her? Sasuke come mad at her. Sasuke was many things, but stupid was not one of them. Kakashi was baiting him deliberately and he would be damned if he walked into it. Kakashi eyed the glaring Kunoichi and said, there is a pond 2 miles from here, start running. Sakura whimpered as she picked up her leaden feet and started to jog. Kakashi fired a kunai that scraped her calf, I said run. Sakura's panic-stricken face whirled toward her sensei as she saw him heft another kunai. As he lifted it to throw, Sakura doubled her pace as Kakashi laughed. Once they made it to the pond, Kakashi had Sakura begin water walking. Once again he was impressed by her ability to pick it up so swiftly. Her chakra control was really something else. She had only fallen in twice and now was standing on it as easily as she stood on the earth. You need to improve on your stamina and your chakra reserves. That means you get to do your taijutsu forms for the next 2 hours on the water. Sakura shivered. If she had known this is what it took to be a shinobi, she would have never signed up. Sakura would not back down now though, she would prove that she could be a shinobi. She would prove that she was worthy of her Sasuke-kun. Kakashi left a clone there and went back to monitor the progress of the other 2 members of his team. He worked with them on their chakra control, and by the end of the 2 hours they had made significant progress. Kakashi was impressed. After the first day he had thought this was going to take a painful amount of time for them to get up to the standards Kakashi would have set for the academy. Both boys oozed potential, and with their fierce competitive nature, they were giving it their all. Sakura had been forced to run back to the camp by the Kakashi clone, and she fell down panting. The man was a monster. Kakashi motioned for Naruto and Sasuke to stop and said, "Well done all of you. You should all be at the level of chakra control needed to start learning jutsu." That made all of them happy. In preparation for that I need to determine your elemental affinities. While they had been briefed in the academy there were things they did not know. Kakashi explained how most shinobi had an affinity with a specific element. It made learning jutsu from that element much easier. Naruto had then asked, "Can you have more than one affinity?" Kakashi shook his head, "Not without a Kekkei Genkai, however that does not mean you can't learn jutsus from another element. It is difficult. Each element requires molding chakra in a specific way. Learning jutsu that you have an affinity for is like studying a complex problem written in the language you know. Learning a jutsu that you do not have an affinity for is like studying a complex problem written in a foreign language. You can learn a second language, but you typically will always think in your native tongue. Difficulties in learning multiple jutsu elements increases on an exponential level." Sakura understood this concept, so learning a second element is twice as hard, but learning a third element might be 4 times as hard. Kakashi gave her an eye smile, "Right concept wrong degree. It's not precise, but for most shinobi learning a second element is typically 10 times as hard." His students looked at him with round eyes. "And learning a third element is then 100 times as hard as the first element." Kakashi held up his hand as they gawked at him, "Let's not get ahead of ourselves, the first step is learning your affinities." Kakashi handed them each a specially prepared slip of chakra paper that would react to their natural affinity. There were some surprises. Sasuke thought he would have a fire-based affinity because that was the first elemental jutsu he had learned. It turned out his element was Raiden, or lightning. Naruto was wind, something that originally disappointed him. He had wanted fire or lighting because they looked the most powerful. Kakashi quickly disabused him of that notion. "Watch the power of wind, Naruto." Kakashi blurred through the hand seals and ended with a strong thrust on the snake seal. Futen. Tatapa, wind release. Great breakthrough. Immediately gale force wind smashed into one of the trees they had used to practice the tree walking exercise on. The tree resisted for the briefest of instants, and then with a great tearing sound, it was ripped out of the ground, roots and all. The tree smashed into another tree 20 feet away before the gale died. Naruto's blue eyes widened. "Yeah, I can't wait to do that, with that move I'll be Hokage in no time." Kakashi's eye twitched. "It's a C-rank jutsu, Naruto. You have a long way to go even after you master this jutsu." Kakashi showed the ninja seals required for the move. Tiger, ox, dog, rabbit and snake are the hand signs. Don't try to push chakra into it. Instead I want you to make a batch of 20 clones. Have 5 of them working on just the hand signs. You need to move through them swiftly. Have the other 5 work on tree walking, and finally we'll have the other 10 work on the first wind training exercise. While Naruto and his clones worked on the leaf cutting exercise, Kakashi had Sakura channel her chakra into the chakra paper. The paper swiftly burned to a crisp. Unfortunate, I had hoped one of them would be earth-based to round out the team, Kakashi thought to himself. Out loud he said, "Excellent, Sasuke can help you with your affinity since he already knows how to use a few fire techniques." Sasuke arched an eyebrow, "You can make Kage Bunshin, why aren't you showing me and Sakura at the same time?" Kakashi chuckled, "Ma, you have me there. But the purpose of this is more than just learning jutsu, it's also to become used to depending on each other." Sasuke sighed but did not scowl or grimace. Kakashi chalked it up as a minor victory. For the rest of the day Kakashi oversaw their elemental training. Sasuke was a bit miffed he would get no training on Raiden until the next day, but it was still far faster than most genins learned. In fact, based on what he had learned from the academy, most genin were not taught elemental jutsu until they made Chunin. Besides that, teaching Sakura wasn't horrible. She seemed too exhausted to even try to flirt, and despite being clearly worn out, she was catching the hang of it. She could actually form everything right on the jutsu, except she lacked the chakra to actually make it form correctly. It was rather eye-opening because normally it would have taken several days or even weeks to learn how to mold chakra to give off heat. Sasuke was also surprised that by teaching he actually learned a more efficient way to mold the fire chakra himself. It actually increased the strength of his attack by at least 10%, while not drastic, it was a surprising and welcome discovery. Kakashi had the original Naruto stop with the leaf cutting exercise, while his clones continued. "Naruto, the last thing we will work on today is your taijutsu forms. I need to make sure you've erased the bad habits from the academy." Naruto whined, "Oh, but sensei, I want to keep learning my new jutsu." Kakashi's hands blurred as he went through the seals for Futen. Tatapa, wind release. Great breakthrough, he lowered the chakra from his last attack, so when it struck Naruto, it only sent him smashing into a tree and bruising him as opposed to breaking bones. Naruto groaned. Kakashi looked down at the boy. "Genin, you are under my command. I will tell you what you need to do. This is not a council, this is not an organization where everyone votes. I will decide what you do. I can end your training at any time, so I expect you to act like a shinobi and obey orders without backtalk." Kakashi knew he was being harsh on the boy, but he had to break him of his bad habits. He needed to stop being so undisciplined. Better he learn it here than on the field tragically. Kakashi glared at the boy. "Now get up and show me your taijutsu." Naruto huffed and sprang up to his feet. Kakashi watched and was gratified by the fact Naruto was already getting acclimated to the weights. But the demon quickly mending any muscle strains or tears he could increase Naruto's weights faster than what would normally be safe. Kakashi still had to correct the forms. "I suppose a couple of days can't fix 4 years of neglect." Naruto was also frustrated that he still hadn't perfected the academy forms. "Hey Kakashi-sensei, can I get my clones to work on this?" Kakashi shook his head. "It might help some, but you need to train your body to instinctively know the correct way to position yourself. Your clones might help you memorize a kata, but it won't help much in combat where attacks happen in a blink of an eye." Naruto grumbled and Kakashi had to laugh. "Naruto, you wouldn't be able to run up a tree at this point if you didn't have the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. You should be thankful that your chakra reserves allow you to use the single best training ability available to a shinobi." Naruto had to laugh as well. Days ago he hadn't even thought he could learn so much. By now he had finished the 4 books, he was quite close to mastering tree walking and was beginning to learn a jutsu. They finished the day of training and Kakashi walked with Naruto back to Konoha proper. "Naruto, have you finished the books I've lent you?" Naruto nodded. "I sure did Kakashi-sensei, I know a lot more now." Kakashi gave him an eye smile. "Who is the missing nin on page 33 of the bingo book?" Naruto scratched his head as he responded, "Hamasasori of the Red Sand." Kakashi shook his head. "No, that was page 39. I want you to have your clones not only read the book, but memorize it." Naruto shrugged. That was hardly a burden since he wasn't the one actually doing it, he would just have a clone do it. "Hi sensei. I also want you to go to the library and start a lot more reading. I want you to read the histories of all the villages. Read the stories of battles fought recently and from long ago. Read cookbooks and books on farming. Read about how to craft weapons and how to build structures. Read medical nin textbooks and books on the art of disguise. Read everything that could possibly give you an edge or a skill that you can use in battle or as a cover identity." "Wow, that's a lot of books." "It is, but I want you to start leaving behind 10 clones to do nothing but reading. You can make more than the 20 I have you using in training. But I don't want you to go crazy with the number of clones. Training with the potential number of clones you could make has never been tested before." Kakashi looked Naruto in the eye. "We'll increase them slowly and see if it has any adverse effects on your mental state." Naruto gulped. He had never thought about that it would do something to his brain to have that many memories. He shivered a little bit but didn't let his determination waver. The Kage Bunshin would allow him to become the Hokage. "I also want you to make a few clones that will henge as civilians. With them I want you to just have them wander the streets. Randomly follow your fellow shinobi when you see them for a few minutes." "Why?" Kakashi narrowed his eye at the boy and the boy quickly put his hands up. "I'm not talking back Kakashi-sensei. I'm just asking why you want me to do it." Kakashi answered, "So that you can become used to blending in. There will be missions that you take on that will require stealth and subterfuge. Plus it will be a good way for you to figure out the way commerce and civilian life works." "Alright, I'll do it. After all, I need to know what people do every day so I can tell them how to do it even better when I'm Hokage." Kakashi just shook his head and thought, "You still have long way to go Naruto, but I'll help you get there." Break. Over the next few days Team 7 continued to progress. They would wrap up their D rank missions as soon as possible so they could get in more training. Sakura broke through the wall of exhaustion and could actually run the 3 miles with no problem. Sakura's chakra reserves were still a bit too low to complete Katen. Kakakyu no Jutsu, fire release. Great fireball technique, but she was getting close. Sakura's spars with Sasuke were finally lasting more than a few seconds. Sasuke was faster and stronger by a fair margin. This forced Sakura to respond with the absolute best counter to each attack in order to hold parity for even a couple of seconds. For Sasuke, the bouts were becoming more interesting as his analysis was showing marked improvement by his teammate. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before they were given real mission. Naruto taijutsu forms were now embedded in his fighting style. This meant that his clones were much more dangerous than they were before. Kakashi taught him how to have his clones fight with a purpose and not just blindly rush in like a mob. The white-haired man also taught Naruto how the clones were just copies and not absolutely perfect. No matter how perfect the chakra control, his clones would always be weaker in direct battle than the original. The Jinchuriki's chakra control was growing in leaps and bounds. Having 10 clones practice chakra control was like a week straight of chakra exercises for any other shinobi. While he still struggled with the massive chakra, he was swiftly catching up with Sasuke. Naruto had completed the leaf-cutting exercise after several days of having multiple clones work on it. There was more wind affinity training that could be done to hone his skill, but Kakashi would save that for later. Futen. Tatapa, wind release. Great Breakthrough was a fairly easy jutsu to learn. Kakashi would soon have Naruto actually using the jutsu. Sasuke was having a lot of success with learning Raiten. It had only taken him a day and a half to master the equivalent of the leaf-cutting exercise. Even considering his drive and genius-level intellect, Kakashi had been impressed. Sasuke was amazed at how much easier it was to learn a lightning technique. On one day he asked Kakashi, "Why did my family teach me Kaiten, fire release, jutsus instead of Raiten, lighting release?" Kakashi had simply responded, "Clans tend to be mired in tradition. You were an Uchiha so they taught you the fire element, it's as simple as that." Sasuke growled when he thought about how difficult it had been to learn a jutsu not of your affinity as a child. Sasuke learned his first Raiten, lighting release, technique. It was a simple blast of electricity, depending on the chakra level it could even kill against a particular weak target like a civilian bandit. It was of more use in stunning a target for capture and interrogation. Sasuke could easily see the tactical implications of the technique. It was rather hard to ensure your opponent was still alive with a Kaiten, fire release, attack. The attack was either avoided or the target was burned horribly, there was little in between. At the end of the first week the weights were increased on Sasuke and Naruto. Small ankle weights were added to Sakura. Sakura was actually excited to be including with the boys in carrying extra weight. Despite everything her sadistic sensei was throwing at her, she was persevering and improving. Her Sasuke-kun had actually complimented her on one of their spars. Kakashi was a firm believer in holding your cards close to your chest. To that end, after the first week he went for drinks with some of his old Anbu pals and other Jonin sensei. During that time he put down his team quite often. Sitting next to Asuma Sarutobi he groused, "I should have failed that team, I would have to if I didn't think the council would have called for my head for failing their precious Uchiha." Asuma laughed and took another drink, "It can't be that bad. After all, Sasuke did graduate as Rookie of the Year." Kakashi grunted, "Rookie of the Year huh? What can I say, standards have fallen. I'll give you that he isn't awful, but he has no teamwork, and when the Haruno girl surpassed him in chakra control, he threw a hissy fit. He's a spoiled brat, I can't take that on a mission." Asuma was rather surprised. Considering how often his student Ino went on about how amazing her Sasuke-kun was, he had expected him to be a rising star. What about the others? Where to begin? The first time I met the team, Sakura was giggling and blushing over the spoiled brat. Then I learned she has the stamina of a flea. She's a disgrace to Kunoichi everywhere. Ma, I should have Kurana Yohi scare her straight sometime. The bearded Jonin shook his head, "To your own student Kakashi. That's cold." Kakashi took a drink, how he did so without removing his mask was always very curious to everyone around him. Naruto is the worst. He screams about being Hokage every chance he gets. Shinobi are silent killers, not loud-mouthed brawlers without any chakra control. Asuma felt bad for his fellow sensei. His team wasn't all roses, but at least they worked together and understood how to act like shinobi. "Hang in there Kakashi, you're the best of us, surely some of that will rub off on them." Kakashi gave a fake sigh, "Maybe if I don't kill them first." Asuma laughed and ordered another round. Break. The second week of D-ranked missions and training began. After a hard day of chakra control and conditioning, Naruto asked Sakura for a date. Unlike all of the other times back at the academy, Sakura did not pound Naruto. Sakura instead laughed, "Naruto baka, I don't even have the energy to go out with Sasuke-kun, even if he did ask me. Kakashi-sensei is trying to kill me." Naruto smiled, he had been turned down, but he hadn't been hit. That must mean he was getting on her good side. Soon enough she would be going out as his girlfriend, believe it, he thought to himself. Sakura made her way home. She was enamored with her medical nin textbooks. She was leaning heavily toward that type of training. Soon she would be working with Kakashi-sensei on Jinjutsu. Sakura was not stupid, she had seen the rapid improvement Naruto had made. And of course her Sasuke-kun was miles ahead of her. She was the weak link on the team, but if she could master healing or Jinjutsu, she would be useful and provide a great support key. Kakashi-sensei had talked to them about how a team worked together, using their key strengths in the best possible way. In that way they would be greater than the sum of their parts. Synergy was the word he had used. Sakura had thought about it long and hard. Naruto and Sasuke-kun were learning powerful jutsu and would be fierce close combat fighters. Having another frontline fighter wouldn't be adding anything more, but a Jinjutsu or medical nin would round out the team nicely. Sakura finished her taijutsu forms and lay in bed exhausted. Those ankle weights had made things more difficult, she had been tempted to take them off, but the thought of letting herself down had prevented her. All of the sparring with Sasuke-kun had made things clear to the bright Kunoichi. Sasuke-kun respected strength and strong shinobi, the path to his heart was first to prove that she was a capable and useful member of his team. With that thought in mind she closed her eyes and dropped into sleep instantly. Chapter 4. The Sharingan. The next day after the customary D-ranked mission, Kakashi talked to the team about the art of subterfuge. Never reveal your strength to the greater shinobi world, let people underestimate you. Naruto scowled, but I want to be Hokage, if I hide my strength, no one will respect me. You have a long way to go before you can become Hokage Naruto. For now follow my orders, do not display what you are truly capable of, Kakashi ordered. That also means you Sasuke. You have a reputation for being a genius and were the rookie of the year. So I want you to fix this perception. Sasuke looked stunned, what do you mean? It's simple Sasuke, Kakashi explained. I want you to pick a fight with Choji at the restaurant they like to eat out at after training. But I'll defeat him easily, I beat him at the academy and since then I've only gotten stronger. Kakashi gave him an eye smile, that's why you'll throw the fight, let him defeat you in front of everyone. Sasuke scowled, he understood the purpose of hiding your strength, but it gnawed at him. He was in Uchiha, he had his clan pride to think of. Kakashi eyed the young heir, it won't be forever, but for now it's best if everyone thinks this team is trash. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, HNN. Sasuke thought about it and considered that this might be another of Kakashi's little tests that he threw their way. Thinking about it rationally, what was a little humility compared to what Itachi had done to him? If this little farce would cause him to stay in the good graces of his sensei and allow him to progress in his training, then so be it. Fine, but it's going to be hard to look that bad. The group went to Choji's favorite barbecue spot. Before they went in, Kakashi said, I consider this your first test on subterfuge, if you fail I promise you no C-rank missions for a month. The team shuddered at the thought of even more D-rank missions. Even with Naruto's clones they still were incredibly boring and frustrating to deal with. They walked in doing their best to act normal. Ino was the first to spot them. Hey. Look everyone, my Sasuke-kun came to visit me. The young blonde jumped up to give Sasuke a hug. Sasuke stepped away and snarled, I did not come here to see you. You're a pathetic fangirl on a pathetic team. Between the laziest ninja and the biggest fat ass in Konoha, I'm surprised you can even succeed on D-rank missions. Stay away from me. Toji slammed his hands on the table and growled out, what did you call me? Kakashi shouted out harshly, Sasuke, apologize right now. Sasuke grimaced and walked over to the now standing larger boy. Sorry, fatty. Choji saw red and swung at Sasuke. Sasuke ducked and struck out with a slower than normal kick. Choji easily grabbed the leg and pulled Sasuke hard, sending him careening to the ground. Choji jumped up and then body slammed his weight onto Sasuke. Sasuke could have rolled, but he was here to lose at his sensei's instructions. Instead he made his eyes unfocused to make it look like he was stunned when he hit the floor. Sasuke regretted not moving when the crushing weight knocked the wind out of his lungs completely. Choji pounded Sasuke before Kakashi and Asuma quickly pulled him off the boy. Don't you ever call me fat. I don't care who you are. The entire restaurant was shocked. The Uchiha heir had just been beaten by Choji. Granted, Choji wasn't bad for a shinobi, but he was middle of the road as far as genins were concerned. Kakashi apologized to Choji and would make sure his student was properly disciplined for his rude behavior. Sasuke was bleeding from the mouth and a rib ached, but he was able to stage her out under his own volition. Ino looked shocked at what had happened. Her first instinct was to yell at Choji for hurting her Sasuke-kun, but after a second thought she realized Sasuke had acted like a complete jerk. She still thought he was hot, but if his personality was so abrasive, maybe she should tell Sakura that she could have him. Naruto also apologized. Sorry about that Choji, but Sasuke is a real jerk. I wish I was on your team. Choji grunted and returned to his food. Sakura huffed and said, you're just lucky Sasuke wasn't expecting to get attacked, otherwise he would have creamed you. Shut up forehead, Ino responded. Let's just eat in peace. Naruto was agreeable, but Sakura feared Naruto's ability to stay in cover so she said, alright fine, but we're leaving. Naruto looked confused, we are? Yes, Naruto Baka. The pink-haired girl grabbed her teammate by the scruff of his orange jumpsuit and marched out of the restaurant. After they were a bit away from the restaurant, Kakashi congratulated Sasuke, well done, I'm impressed you were able to get past your pride. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Tell me Sasuke, do you know the other reasons I told you to do this? HNN. Sasuke was not in the mood to guess. His sensei gave him an eye smile, pride kills in battle. I wanted your pride to take a blow so you won't act like a foolish ninja when a real battle begins. Arrogance is a death sentence, if you take that lesson to heart then I have succeeded as your Jonin sensei. Sasuke stayed silent and kept walking. Kakashi knew this had been hard for his student, but it had been necessary. Due to Sasuke following his instructions it was time to provide the carrot. It was time to unlock the Sharingan. And I know just the person who can help me with this. Break. It had been another exhausting day of training with Team 7 for Sasuke. He disliked some of the things his sensei required of him, however he could endure them. If it made him stronger, then he would endure anything. Today Kakashi had them use Kawarimi no Jutsu, Substitution Jutsu, to race against each other. Using that jutsu as fast as they could with logs spread 10 meters apart, it had been a 200-meter race. Sakura had gotten off to an early lead, her chakra control a strong advantage in this type of race. Sasuke had quickly caught up though. After the 5th substitution she had needed to rest in between substitutions. Sasuke had won the race and immediately saw the battlefield implications. Being able to do this move quickly would mean the difference between life and death. Sasuke made it back to the empty Uchiha district. The place was a ghost town, all thanks to his brother Itachi. Every time he saw it would swear vengeance anew against his brother. How could he have massacred his entire clan? How could he have left him all alone? Hot rage burned within the young orphan, he would make Itachi pay. Sasuke sensed another presence just as he reached his home. He whirled around hand on a kunai as he saw 2 figures approach. They walked without haste, one was a male shinobi in middle years and the other was a kunoichi that looked to be in her early 20s. Both wore Iwagakure forehead protectors. The male wore dark colors, brown and gray, that seemed to blend seamlessly with his surroundings. It was form-fitting and he looked to be carrying nothing but a single scroll at his waist. The kunoichi had an assortment of kunai and other sharp implements attached to her vest and had a short curved sword on her left side. Her outfit showcased a slim figure revealing curves that most adolescent boys would have drooled over. Sasuke warily watched as the pair approached. What were Iwa Shinobi doing here? Don't come any closer. Why are Iwa Shinobi within the borders of Konoha? The 2 figures stopped. The female eyed Sasuke with hungry eyes while the male responded. Greetings Sasuke-san. We have come from Iwa to make you an offer. An offer? Yes, that Tsuchikage wants to extend the hand of friendship to you. Leave Konohagakure and join a village that will help you gain strength. In Iwagakure you will have tutors and instructors who will give you personal attention. We can help you bring back the Uchiha clan faster than this pathetic village. Sasuke was not the most patriotic of shinobi. But to have his home casually insulted by foreign shinobi simply wasn't acceptable. From what I remember in the academy, this pathetic village defeated Iwa during the last war. Both foreigners scowled, the kunoichi actually hissed at him. The male responded, that occurred because of the Yellow Devil. He paused, and back then Konoha had a full-strength Uchiha clan that could also fight, right now I only see you. Sasuke scowled at being reminded once again what Itachi had taken from him. There is more to this offer. Iwa wants the Uchiha clan flourish again. You can have your pick of kunoichi to partner with, as long as you attempt to propagate your clan monthly, you can choose any female shinobi you wish. Instead of being enticed by the offer, Sasuke was disgusted. He hated the fangirls he had to put up with, now an entire village wanted to use him for his genes. They didn't care about his strength or his goal, they just wanted him to help spawn a clan of Iwa Sharingan users. Sasuke took careful note of his surroundings. There did not appear to be anyone else around. The 2 from Iwa were probably Jonin level. They moved with confidence and he could sense their chakra. Fighting them would be foolish, he decided to pretend to consider the issue and then report this to the Anbu immediately. Give me time to think on it, can you return tomorrow? The kunoichi barked out a laugh. Boy, do you think you can fool us? You could have had even me if you agreed. But it's obvious you aren't interested. The older shinobi shook his head in disappointment. My apologies Sasuke-san, but if Iwa cannot have your bloodline then no one will. His hands blurred with the seals as he shouted. Oten. Dasakiryu, Earth style. Earth Dragon. Sasuke was ready for a possible attack. He jumped straight back and landed on the wall of his home. A dragon-shaped mass of earth smashed where he had vacated just a split second afterward. The kunoichi launched a half-dozen shurikens at him that Sasuke hastily blocked with his kunai. Sasuke clung to the wall with his chakra and then leapt up onto the roof. The enemy was waiting for him there, a sadistic grin etched on her face. How did she get here so fast? She drew her curved blade and licked the tip of it. Ready to die, boy. Sasuke threw a smoke bomb down to hide his actions. He threw a kunai at her as a distraction and made his break. A blade slashed out of the smoke, he barely avoided taking a serious wound. As it was, he had been nicked on the shoulder. Sasuke tried to back away, but his enemy was too fast. Her blade was everywhere and it took every ounce of skill Sasuke possessed just to keep from being sliced open. His kunai parried an attack and he tried to lash out with a surprise kick, but his opponent used her own leg to block and then used the same leg to kick him across the face. Sasuke turned with a blow to avoid serious damage. Rolling in the direction of the kick, he threw his kunai to free up his hands, then rushed through the necessary seals. Kaiten. Kakakyu no Jutsu, fire release. Great fireball technique. She dodged to the left, avoiding being burned to a crisp. She lunged back into the fight. Sasuke took another cut, this time across his ribs. Sasuke had lost track of the second shinobi. This wasn't good for the last Uchiha. He couldn't defeat his current opponent, and even if he could get the edge, no doubt her partner would come in and finish him off. He didn't have time to dwell on this, since all of his concentration was on the fearsome Kunoichi who was slashing like a dervish. Too slow boy. Sasuke doubled over, he had blocked high to avoid a descending strike, and the Iwa shinobi had rushed forward and hit him with a flying knee to the solar plexus. He collapsed on the ground struggling to breathe. His dark-haired opponent smirked down in triumph. Die. Her blade whipped forward and Sasuke used the substitution jutsu faster than he had ever done so in his life. The Kunoichi whirled instantly knowing where he had switched to. Sasuke tried the new jutsu Kakashi had taught him. Raiden. Shaku, lighting release. Jolt. She sidestepped the jutsu, again faster than his eye could follow. The enemy nin laughed and stalked forward. Only this time she seemed to be taunting him. She was moving slowly and deliberately. Almost as if he wasn't worth her time. Sasuke snarled and charged her. His kunai smashed into her blade, even her block had been slow. Instantly he saw her body flex, she was going to kick him again. This time he saw the move and ducked under her foot and slashed at it with his kunai. She hastily tried to move and was mostly successful, but he had at least drawn blood from her calf. Her eyes were furious and a vicious gleam started to show. "Alright you stinking brat, you are going to pay for that." Sasuke readied himself when he heard Kakashi's voice call out, "That's enough Anko-san." Sasuke's eyes widened. He looked at the Iwa shinobi who had just displaced the henge that surrounded her. He now openly stared at the oddly dressed Leaf Takebetsu Jonin. "What the hell Kakashi-sensei? Another one of your damn tests." Sasuke furiously glared at his instructor. Relax Sasuke, you aren't going to die. Doesn't that make you happy?" Sasuke kept his glare steady. "I did this for you, as a reward for being so diligent in your training as well as putting aside your pride." Sasuke stared blankly at him. Kakashi tapped his eye. Sasuke's eyes widened. "The Sharingan. That's why your movement slowed down." Anko laughed, "Are you sure he's a genius Kakashi?" Sasuke glared at her, "So this was all to get my Sharingan unlocked? You could have killed me. You weren't pulling your blows." Anko snickered, "I had it under control, and besides from what Kakashi tells me, the easiest way to unlock the Sharingan is to be in fear of your life while trying to watch someone fast." Sasuke resisted the urge to lash out at the both of them and only stopped himself because he knew it would be futile. Inoha's snake mistress then said, "Well it's time for me to get going, remember our deal Kakashi?" Kakashi nodded once, "Hi, just remember to keep quiet about tonight." Anko shunshined away, leaving Kakashi alone with Sasuke. Sasuke was torn between relief he wasn't going to die, triumph at unlocking the Sharingan, and anger at the Jonin for putting him through this. "With the Sharingan you will be able to learn jutsu very quickly, we'll begin tomorrow. And of course do not reveal it to anyone outside of our team." Sasuke breathed out slowly and let his anger out, "Hi Kakashi-sensei and thank you." Kakashi smiled beneath his mask and jumped to the next rooftop back to his own home. Break. It was drawing close to the end of the second week of Kakashi's training regimen. All of his students were finally getting the level the academy should have gotten them to. Kakashi supposed it could have been worse, 2 weeks was only 2 weeks after all. He thought about the progress each had made. Sasuke had unlocked the Sharingan, greatly expanding his ability to fight in close quarters. In addition it allowed him to copy jutsu, Kakashi had already shared several with him. Unlike everyone else without the Dojutsu learning ninjutsu was a piece of cake with the Sharingan. It wasn't perfect, the Sharingan saw almost everything, but since each shinobi's chakra system was different, it had to be adapted to the user's very own chakra system in order to get maximum effect. But as a learning tool the Sharingan was unsurpassed. Even Naruto's Cage Bunshin training technique paled in comparison. Beyond just the Sharingan, Sasuke had begun to act as part of a team. He was motivated to help the rest of Team 7 so he could progress further and faster. His comments to Sakura after their spars were a lot less harsh and his insights he provided Sakura had helped. Moreover Sasuke realized that as opposed to being a hindrance his team could actually help him get stronger. His pride was still there, but now it was hidden as the boy forcibly suppressed it. Kakashi knew part of it was an act. Sasuke still thought he was the latest and greatest shinobi to join the ninja corps. At 2 weeks the elite Jonin would take it, after all if you fake something long enough you start to actually become it. It was a problem for deep cover Anbu operatives, and Sasuke had none of Anbu's personality retention training. Before he knew it a little humility would no longer be an act, but part of his personality makeup. Sasuke's conditioning was on point as well. He had taken to the weights extremely well and now moved even faster with the weights than he had without them. It was time to increase them. He was a long way away from Rock Lee from his eternal rivals team, but he had made a good start. Naruto was the other genin who had improved by leaps and bounds. His Taijutsu was now up to acceptable levels. His movements were far more efficient and actually resembled that of a shinobi. Soon it would be time to have him pick a fighting style beyond the core basics the academy taught. The weights would eventually make him to Jutsu monster. Because of the unnatural healing and stamina gained from the Kyuubi, he would catch up with Guy's prize students in no time. Kakashi had him at double the weight Sasuke was currently wearing. The first day with new weights was killer for Naruto, but by the next he was already starting to get used to them. Naruto had also started eating healthy, the changes were subtle, but when Kakashi looked with his Sharingan, he saw that Naruto was starting to fill out appropriately. The extra nutrients would hopefully give the boy a growth spurt soon. Naruto's personality was still hyperactive, but he was starting to control it. His knowledge base had increased significantly, and when Kakashi had last quizzed him on the bingo book, Naruto had answered all of his queries correctly. Kakashi had also taught Naruto Futen. Tatapa, wind release. Great breakthrough to Naruto. Kakashi had to twitch when he found the training area littered with fallen trees, thanks to his students' excited overuse of the technique. His next lesson would be to teach his team how to combine the Kaiten. Kakakyu, fire release. Great fireball technique and Futen. Tatapa, wind release. Great breakthrough together for maximum damage. Sakura was also impressive. While she still had a long way to go in terms of increasing her stamina, her drive was surprising. Kakashi had spied on the girl while she did her morning and evening routines, and she had not flinched from completing them religiously. Sakura's chakra control was as fantastic as it had been, but now she was gaining chakra reserves. By the end of the week she too would be able to use Kaiten. Kakakyu, fire release. Great fireball technique. Technically she still wouldn't have the chakra reserves for it, however, because of her extreme chakra control, she could still make the jutsu work, it just wouldn't be as powerful as a normal shinobi's. Of course that will be after less than a month of chakra conditioning work. Give her another month and she'll be able to use it just as well as anyone, Kakashi thought to himself. After she mastered that technique he would give her an entry-level genjutsu to use, then she would need to make a decision on which path she was going to take. Medic Nin or Genjutsu Specialist, either one would enhance the overall capabilities of Team 7. Kakashi settled into his humble abode. After a long day of training his genins then doing his own physical conditioning and training, he decided to relax by reading one of his Icha novels. A new one had just come in and he had been looking forward to it. He had been tempted to relapse into old bad habits and just read it while his genin trained, but he had forced himself not to. Tomorrow would be a day dedicated to team tactics and combination attacks. If they took to it well enough he might throw them a bone and let them go on their first C-ranked mission. Chapter 5. Land of Waves. Team 7 had just completed another D-ranked mission. All of them were getting sick of them. Naruto especially had been vocal about it. Kakashi had put him on his back quick for his lip. Impressively enough the boy had blocked his first 2 attacks before Kakashi had put him down. He wasn't going at maximum speed, but that had still been impressive. I know all of you are itching to prove yourselves, but haste makes dead shinobi. These next lessons are going to be critically important. Teamwork is the key to all the great teams. Ino Shikacho being the famous one of my generation. Individually none of them are inferior shinobi, but they are not standout fighters. Together they have taken multiple teams on at once and emerged triumphant. That famous group is actually the parents of Choji, Shikamaru and Ino, Sakura realized. All 3 genin looked ready and eager to learn. Ah, motivation, what a beautiful thing it is, Kakashi wryly thought to himself. Alright, first up I want Sasuke to use Kaiten. Kakakyu, fire release. Great fireball technique, and Naruto you will use Futen. Tatapa, wind release. Great breakthrough. Kakashi walked up to a tree and carved an X over the center of its trunk. This is your target, oh, and Sakura stand back a bit. Futen. Tatapa, wind release. Great breakthrough. Kaiten. Kakakyu no jutsu, fire release. Great fireball technique. The 2 ninjutsu collided together and blew the tree apart. The firestorm smashed the scorched tree into pieces, it continued on to blacken the trees behind it. Kakashi had one of his clones use a water jutsu to put out the flames that had caught a few of the trees nearby. The genin merely stared with wide eyes. When you practice this technique don't use it on any more trees, otherwise we'll lose our village namesake, Kakashi joked. Naruto let out a yell, that was amazing. That attack could destroy anything. Kakashi's eye twitched. Naruto, there are plenty of defenses against the attack, who can name a supplementary jutsu that could stop this attack? Sakura answered, Kawarimi no jutsu, substitution technique. Kakashi graced her with an eye smile. Correct, attacks like the one you saw can be defeated with minor chakra output. Naruto squinted with his eyes. Then what is the point? Why did we learn these jutsu if they aren't going to help? Kakashi answered, because sometimes there is nothing nearby that can be used to switch places with. Additionally, if the shinobi is caught unprepared this attack can hit them before they realize the danger they are in. Or the shinobi is using their own jutsu on you, so not only do you counter their attack but crush them with this. Maybe your comrade put them in a Jinjutsu, even if it only lasted a second it would be long enough for this jutsu to kill. And of course there is the ever-present number 1 shinobi killer arrogance. Surely a genin jutsu couldn't beat my defense, a higher rank shinobi might say. Well, this will come as a big surprise and possibly a fatal one. Now do you see the purpose? Naruto rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. Sasuke had thought of some of Kakashi's scenarios but not all of them. The combination of the two jutsus actually rivaled the destructive power of some A-rank jutsus. Sasuke once again re-evaluated the benefit of having a team, he was starting to see several advantages to having strong allies at his back. Sakura was impressed with the damage done by the jutsu and wished her chakra reserve was higher. Her sensei had said she only needed a little bit more reserves before she too could use the Kaiten jutsu. When that happened she could also be a valued member of the team. Sakura could also sense that Kakashi had meant the Jinjutsu comment for her. Sakura was falling in love with the concept of being a medic nin, but would keep an open mind when Kakashi-sensei taught her a Jinjutsu. This is a kill move and should be used with caution if we need the target alive. Speaking of which, let's talk about protocol for keeping enemies alive, Kakashi told his team. If dealing with an unknown shinobi, everyone should fight to kill. I've mentioned it in previous lesson, but it bears repeating. Kill quickly. A wise shinobi knows that they are in danger until the opponent is dead. Kakashi gave Naruto a look. Naruto here will be calling out our opponents based on the bingo books I've had him memorize. If the enemy is Shunin or lower, it is safe to attempt to capture. If you recognize a Jonin level foe, let us know and we will fight to kill. Capturing an enemy is significantly harder than killing one, but information is life, sometimes the added risk is worth it. Kakashi took a deep breath as the next point hit close to him. If the goal is to capture someone alive but your comrade will perish unless you unleash a deadly jutsu, then unleash the deadly jutsu, Kakashi commanded. His tone took one of reverence. Those who don't follow rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. The infamous copycat nin looked carefully in each of his genin's faces. All of them had acknowledged what he had said. Alright, moving on. Subterfuge is a basic shinobi art that isn't used often enough. Due to Naruto's mastery of the Kage Bunshin, we have a wonderful tool to use. Sasuke thought about some of the tactical implications and smirked, having that many extra bodies had lots of advantages. Naruto, when a battle begins you should attempt to flood the area with another 20 to 30 Kage Bunshin. Henge a few to make them look like us. While you do this, Sakura will make regular clones to make it more confusing for the enemy. They won't be able to henge but will add to the distraction. At that point Naruto, you are to call out if you identify the enemy. We don't need fancy code words, just identify the threat. Naruto cocked his head to the side. What type of information should I provide? Kakashi responded, rank primarily, any known tactics or specialties. Remember, if Shunin or lower we go for the capture, if it is a Jonin we kill. Kakashi turned to Sasuke, meanwhile you will activate your Sharingan and determine if our attackers are using any illusions. You will do this even if we are facing bandits, Ronin or samurai. It is easy for a shinobi to pretend to be something they are not. I knew an Anbu operative who assumed the bandits were just bandits and he lost his life when the hidden shinobi blew his head off. Sakura shivered. She could only imagine what kind of jutsu did that. She rubbed her arms a bit. Kakashi was serious. The life of a shinobi was life and death when they entered the battle. If everything is as it should be, then no need to call out anything. If it is a Jonin, then Naruto's clones will engage the enemy. Feel free to add ranged weapons and jutsu as you like. Killing the enemy before they get close diminishes the risk you face in the battle. Kakashi eyed Sasuke. I'll repeat this for you, Sasuke, shinobi battles are not the place to test your abilities. That's a good way to get killed, and where will your ambition be then? You will electrocute, burn and pierce enemies from a distance. Sasuke frowned but responded with a, hi sensei. Sasuke paused, but only against Jonin threats, otherwise I can get close, correct? Kakashi nodded. Time your attack so they work together. Not just with a jutsu combination but with any move. If you throw a kunai with an explosive tag, the shinobi will probably jump in one direction. As soon as you determine that direction, unleash your attack. Because the Sharingan allows you to see even minute muscle twitches and glances, you are the cleanup, Sasuke. Naruto and Sakura will make them move and then you will finish it. Sasuke understood his role and was pleased with it. He was the executioner, it seemed fitting for an Avenger like himself. They drilled various combination moves and attacks, they also discussed what to do when faced with certain situations. Kakashi drilled the tenets that he operated by over and over. Teamwork first. Never assume you've won. Don't talk about your abilities. Kill quickly. Kakashi was pleased with how the team was coming together. Towards the end of the day he started Naruto and Sasuke on the water walking exercise with his clone and started working with Sakura on Jinjutsu. The Jinjutsu we will be learning is the technique I used on you. It is not a powerful Jinjutsu, but it will be a great starting point, Kakashi explained. The technique is called Meijin. Narakumi no Jutsu. Demonic illusion hell viewing technique, Sakura's eyes widened, that's a basic genjutsu. The one that made me see Sasuke dying in front of me. Kakashi eyed the genin, yes. The genjutsu is pretty basic, for a variety of reasons. Kakashi held up his index finger as he said, 1. It doesn't change what you see, it only adds to the victim's senses. This means unlike other genjutsu that completely obscures the victim's 5 senses and replaces it with their own version of reality, this one just adds one scene. Kakashi held up a second finger and continued, 2. It only affects 2 senses, sight and hearing. Your sense of taste, touch and smell were not impacted. This makes the jutsu quite easy to detect and why I was not surprised that you fell for it so easily. Kakashi raised a third finger and finally it does not reveal the victim's greatest fear, instead it reflects the victim's most probable recent fear. Sakura scrunched her brow as she thought about it, can you explain that a little to me a little bit more thoroughly? Kakashi complied, if I had used this jutsu after having dinner with your family, you may have seen your mother or father dying. It all depends on the emotional bond you have with individuals. The jutsu isn't even specific to that, it could be failure to realize a dream or desire, either way it is not necessarily the deepest or darkest fear someone has. Thank you Kakashi-sensei. How do I make the genjutsu work? Kakashi explained how genjutsu worked, how it attacked the enemy's chakra and took over their senses. Triggers were most frequently sight, but some shinobi even used sound or smell to initiate them. In theory I suppose it can be done by taste and touch, but I have not seen a genjutsu function that way. Sakura eagerly drank up all of the knowledge that was given to her. Kakashi showed her how to infuse her chakra into her victim's chakra network. With Sakura's excellent chakra control it wasn't difficult at all. Kakashi also used it on Sakura again, this time she saw Naruto, Sasuke and Kakashi dying before her eyes. Knowing how it worked she was able to ignore the effect. She decided to test it by walking up to Sasuke and touching the image, it wavered as she did so and then dissipated. Her sensei taught her how to break genjutsu as well. Knowing you are under a genjutsu is half of the battle. After that you can flood your chakra system with your own chakra breaking the effect, or you can cause physical pain to yourself. Neither method is foolproof, but a skilled genjutsu specialist should have an easier time breaking out of one. After Sakura tried a few times they called it a day and Sakura went home to complete her evening exercises. Sakura was an intelligent kunoichi, after the teamwork exercises she could see the advantage of genjutsu. If she could pin an opponent in place for even a second or two, then Naruto and Sasuke could hammer them with their jutsu combination. Perhaps I should focus on genjutsu, but if Sasuke-kun or even Naruto ever got injured, I'd just hate myself forever if I couldn't heal them because I passed up on medical nin training. Sakura tossed and turned that night. Medical training or genjutsu? Medical training or genjutsu? Both had their advantages. With genjutsu the team's jutsu combination kill combo would be quite dangerous. If they could kill the enemy before anyone could get injured wasn't that better? Sakura shivered when she thought about killing. Kakashi talked about it a lot and it was now her biggest concern. Killing someone that was trying to kill you was one thing. But Kakashi talked about how the best way to kill someone is end their life before they even knew it was in danger. Could she really kill in cold blood? Sakura continued to toss and turn as she wrestled with that question for most of the night. Break. At the 3-week mark Kakashi finally allowed them to take a rank C mission. The final jutsu he wanted them to master before taking a higher ranked mission was the Shunshin. With it they had a powerful tool to escape with if they needed to. The Shunshin was a misunderstood jutsu. To a civilian it looked like a teleportation jutsu. In reality it was just a shinobi moving incredibly fast using chakra to boost their speed. The jutsu had its weaknesses, while the speed was great, it did not allow a shinobi to move their limbs faster, it essentially just pushed a tremendous amount of momentum in a single direction. It could even be dangerous to oneself if used improperly. The Sharingan wielder has taught his students the dangers and when to use it. Sasuke, using the Sharingan had learned it the quickest, next was Sakura, but Naruto wasn't too far behind when he created a dozen clones to help him learn it. With that in place Kakashi felt the time was right to give his team a real mission. Team 7 reported to the Hokage Tower with Naruto literally jumping up and down with excitement. Kakashi stopped the team, Naruto if you want to go on the mission settle down. You are embarrassing the team. Naruto forced himself to calm down. Sorry, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi was handed the mission folder. We will be escorting an architect Anami no Kuni. Kakashi scanned the paperwork. Our client is concerned about increased bandit activity preventing his workers from completing a bridge. This should be a simple C-ranked mission, bandits will be no match. But remember arrogance can get you killed, so I want everyone to be on their toes. The 3 genin nodded and Kakashi motioned them to follow. It was time to meet their client. The Hokage was there and Naruto had to avoid saying hi to his Jiji. Kakashi had been very firm with Naruto on how to act around a client. The client stepped out drinking from a bottle. He took a swig and said, "What? I paid for bodyguards and all I get are little kids. Naruto scowled, who are you calling a little kid? Kakashi's eye twitched. The Hokage merely chuckled. Azuna-san, you have one of the least best shinobi, an elite jonin with you. You will be more than safe in his capable hands. Naruto pointed his thumb at himself. And me. I'm going to be the next Hokage and then you'll have to respect me. Hiruzen attempted to suppress his mirth at Kakashi's expense. With his crystal ball he had seen exactly how hard Kakashi had trained Team 7. He had also seen how hard Kakashi had worked to get Naruto to act like a proper shinobi. Kakashi's frosty tone was not lost on Naruto. If you are done Naruto, it is time to prepare for the mission. Meet at the front gate and prepare for travel, since we are escorting a civilian the trip to Nami no Kuni should take 2 days. Naruto suppressed a groan, he had already made his sensei mad and the mission hadn't even started. I'm going to do better, Kakashi-sensei is going to be proud of me for the rest of this mission. Naruto made this silent promise and intended to keep it. Later they were all at the front gate. Tazuna looked impatient to be on his way. Kakashi eyed him, something didn't feel right about the mission. Kakashi decided to let things go, it was doubtful that anything on this mission would pose a challenge to a shinobi of his caliber. Furthermore, his team had dramatically improved with his training. All the same, he would be on his guard, overconfidence was the sure path to death. Alright Naruto, since we are leaving Konoha I want you to create 8 clones. Have them fan out at variable distances within a mile of the group. If one of them sees something, have it dispel so you can then inform us. Try to have them be at least a little stealthy, Kakashi ordered. No problem Kakashi-sensei. Naruto quickly made the required number of shadow clones and sent them on their way. Tazuna did not know much about shinobi abilities, but that one sure looked useful in keeping him safe. He felt a bit bad about lying to the shinobi, especially with the fact they were just kids, but this was his country's only hope. During the first hour of the journey, Naruto was keeping a sharp eye out for any sign of danger. In fact, he was a bit too jumpy as he twitched and prepared for battle every time a woodland creature moved. Kakashi cautioned Naruto, "Naruto, while it's good you are taking it seriously, it's important that you stop sounding false alarms." Naruto flushed all of the talk about death and killing and battle tactics had made him a bit jump. Kakashi added, "And keep in mind, even if you did spot an enemy coming, it's not always a good idea to sound the alarm. If they feel they have the surprise when they don't, it can be a nasty surprise. So calm down a bit." "Aye Kakashi-sensei." The journey continued for another couple of hours when Kakashi saw a puddle of water. It hadn't rained in a few days, so it was quite out of place for his finely honed senses. Without changing his movements in the slightest, Kakashi reached out with his senses and determined that there were 2 enemy shinobi hiding. Unlikely a Jonin-level enemy would make that mistake. "I'll be ready to step in if things go poorly, but my team needs real shinobi combat," Kakashi thought to himself. Sure enough, after a few moments as the group walked by the puddle, 2 shinobi each wielding a large gauntlet attacked. They struck at the most dangerous target first. Kakashi completed an undetectable replacement jutsu right as a chain that connected the 2 gauntlets and shinobi together was wrapped around him. Kakashi stayed hidden off to the side as he watched what his team would do. Naruto shouted, "Chunin level. Missing nin from Kurigakure, hidden mist, affinity with water and they use poison." He had shouted this information as he performed the cage bunshin, deploying over a dozen shadow clones. Sakura created regular clones that dashed forward attempting to distract the 2 Chunin level opponents. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and saw Kakashi hiding off to the side. Guess he thinks we can handle them." Sasuke smirked as he threw a few shuriken at the pair of shinobi racing for them. The shuriken were avoided, but right behind them came in the Naruto horde. The first wave had raced forward, while the second had paused to hinge to look like Sakura and Sasuke. The missing nin used the chain to good effect, catching 2 of the clones right away. One of the clones attempted a flying kick that the enemy on the left ducked. Another clone attempted a strike at the torso of the one on the right. A quick jab made the clone poof into smoke. The final clone of the first 5 came in right behind the clone that had just been dealt with and kicked him in the kneecap. The blow was strong and Gozu's leg buckled underneath him. The second wave of clones had arrived, mingled in with Sakura's images. The massive opponents they were suddenly faced with surprised them. Gozu had to release the chain and quickly defend himself as multiple clones attacked. Several more went poof, but Naruto just grinned and made more. Sakura fired off a pair of kunai, further distracting the 2. Sasuke chose that moment to strike. As Mizu blocked the kunai with his gauntlet, Sasuke dashed forward with surprising speed. His fist slammed into his opponent's ribs, Mizu grunted and tried to bring his poison-tipped gauntlet around, but with the Sharingan spinning, it was telegraphed and easily avoided. A Naruto clone kicked the back of Mizu's calf, sending him to the ground. Sasuke took full advantage and grabbed the gauntleted arm and snapped the enemy shinobi's arm. A kunai appeared in his hand and was held at the demon brother's throat. Mizu was beaten and he knew it. Gozu was favoring one leg while the Naruto clones rushed him. He could not get free of the clones to come help his brother. Naruto saw one of his clones jump in the air and he knew his next move. Gozu was popping clones left and right, but since they were only coming in 2 or 3 at a time, he had several to deal that were always easily replaced. The clone that leapt into the air was quickly hit with a Kawarimi from the real Naruto, who was now in the air and in perfect position to use his jutsu. He flashed through the hand signs in mid-air. Gyuten. Tatapa, wind release. Great breakthrough. The blast of air crashed down at an angle on Gozu. The blast destroyed several clones, but that was just fine by Naruto. The gale force wind slammed Gozu into the ground with tremendous force. Because it was at an angle, he slid a good 15 feet, the abrasive ground cut through his clothing and ripped up skin. Even before he finished sliding, several clones landed next to him and pinned him down. One held a kunai at his throat. "Move and you die," the Naruto clone said in a calm voice. Sakura had been defending Tazuna after throwing 2 of her kunai. She was relieved and happy that the battle was over. It had been their first shinobi battle and it was won without any injuries. Kakashi congratulated them and quickly secured their 2 prisoners. He attached a chakra seal and secured them tightly enough not even a jonin could escape. He then turned to the bridge builder. "We need to talk about what is really going on." Tazuna looked around. "What do you mean?" Kakashi raised his killing intent and Tazuna backed up as the oppressive pressure bore down on him. The jonin's voice took on a cold and ominous tone. "You lied about the mission parameters, that could have gotten us killed. Were you in league with this shinobi? Was this a trap set for us?" Kakashi did not think that was the case at all, but fear could be a powerful motivator in making someone talk. As he suspected, Tazuna stumbled over himself trying to explain himself. "I'm not working with them. I swear." Tazuna held his hands up as he backed away. "They were trying to kill me to stop me from building the bridge." Sasuke smirked. "Sensei is good. Hi Tazuna-sen, I never doubted they wanted you dead, but why are their shinobi trying to stop you from building the bridge?" Kakashi asked the question in a more conversational tone and Tazuna relaxed. The architect sagged. The jonin believed him, but he had given it away. He was expecting the attack. "Alright, I'll tell you everything. It all started when a despicable man by the name of Geto came to our land." Tazuna proceeded to tell the story of the suffering of Nami no Kuni. The 4-leaf nin listened to his story. Naruto in particular wanted to save them from Geto, who reminded him of the bullies in the village who had mocked him and tried to take away his will to go on. Geto was doing the same thing, demoralizing and controlling an entire land simply because he had the resources to do it. Naruto shouted out, "We are going to save your country and kick out this Geto guy." "Believe it." Kakashi interrupted, "Naruto, not so fast. This was supposed to have been a C-ranked mission. Any mission that involves enemy shinobi is automatically at least a B-ranked mission. Genin do not take B-ranked missions." "HN," Sasuke responded. "But we have to help them," Naruto shouted. Sakura remained quiet. She wanted to help the people of Nami no Kuni, but shouldn't this be handled by a more experienced team? Yes, Tazuna had said that they couldn't afford to pay for a B-ranked mission, but what if Sasuke or Naruto got hurt? Inner Sakura screamed, "Coward. You're afraid. If you want to be a shinobi you have to be willing to fight. So go out there and fight. Show Sasuke what you are made of." Cha-cha-cha. Sakura bit her lip and then quietly but firmly said, "We can do it. We are a team and look at what we have accomplished. Please Kakashi-sensei, please let us continue the mission." Both Naruto and Sasuke looked at her, Naruto grateful, and Sasuke was appraising her in a new way. Kakashi looked at his genin team and thought about the situation. Likely they would face another threat. This time it would probably be a jonin. If a jonin was their opponent, Kakashi was confident he could handle the threat, however battle was never a certain thing, he would have to be on his guard. "Is my team ready?" "Perhaps, but I'll need to test how far they are willing to go." Sasuke would have no qualms and I'm confident about Naruto. But Sakura, the leader of Team 7, told his team, "I have decided how we should handle this. Sakura, it will be your choice. If you wish to continue this mission you must prove you are fully committed." Tazuna looked on hopeful. Naruto was confused, "What do you mean?" Sakura already said she wanted to continue. "It's simple, I know you and Sasuke have the killer instinct to fight with the intent to kill. I don't know if Sakura does. In order to prove to me that she does have that instinct she must kill one of our prisoners." Everyone tensed at the announcement. Sakura froze, her eyes widening in horror. Sasuke narrowed his eyes and tried to think of a way around Kakashi's test. This might work, he thought. "Kakashi-sensei, these two might have information. We should keep them alive." Kakashi laughed, "Nice try, Sasuke. I appreciate you trying to work as a team, however both of them probably have the same amount of information. There is no point in leaving both alive. Sakura will have to pass this test." Sakura's mind shrank away from the task. In the middle of combat she felt she could kill if it meant saving Sasuke-kun's life or that of another leaf shinobi. But in cold blood. After the battle is finished. It was unthinkable. But if she didn't do it, the people of Nami no Kuni would continue to suffer under the tyrant businessman's boot. Sakura looked at the two missing nin and swallowed thickly. She looked at the faces of her teammates. Naruto looked shocked at the turn of events. Sasuke looked pissed, likely because he thought she wouldn't go through with it. Tazuna looked at her with pleading eyes. Sakura's hand was shaking. How could her sensei make her do this? Kakashi raised his voice. Did you think being a shinobi was glamorous? We are assassins, thieves, spies and infiltrators. If you aren't willing to kill, you aren't going to be on this team. Don't mistake my meaning, Sakura. If you don't kill, you will remain on Team 7. I will give you future chances. However, at some point or another I will require that you kill someone. If you can't do that, then drop out and work at the Konoha hospital. Sakura didn't want to let her team down. She didn't want to let the people of Nami no Kuni down. She pulled out a kunai. Her hand trembled. Tears welled at her eyes. This was the moment of truth. A heavy weight pressed down on her chest. If she did this, her path in life would be different than she had ever dreamed it could be. Would she walk the killer's path? Chapter 6. Demon of the Mist. Naruto watched his crush with bated breath. He was angry with his sensei for putting her through this. Sakura was being torn apart by the weight of her decision. Sakura took a deep breath. Before she could change her mind, she pulled out a kunai and threw it at the helpless shinobi. The kunai sank into the soft flesh of Gozu's neck. Death took the shinobi, and Sakura felt a chill cover her body. Kakashi walked over to Sakura and gently cupped her face. Good work, shinobi. The word shinobi was said quietly yet forcefully. It imparted meaning that was not there before. Meaning that was not there prior to the taking of a life. Sakura stood proudly for a moment, her chin lifted up. A sudden sickening sensation filled her. I'm proud. I'm proud I murdered someone in cold blood. Sakura turned away and ran 4 steps before heaving the contents of her stomach out. Naruto went to comfort her, but Kakashi stopped him with a simple shake of his head. Sakura puked her guts out and then collapsed to her knees. Soft sobs filled the clearing. Kakashi summoned Pakin and gave him instructions to take a message back to Konoha. All 3 of his genin made no comment on the summon. The Ninken was a bit miffed but saw the corpse and instantly knew that it had been someone's first kill. Pakin just agreed to take the message and rushed off to the village hidden in the leaves. The pink-haired girl's cries finally stopped. She sniffed a few times and looked at her teammates. I'm ready. They continued their journey to Nami no Kuni. Sasuke remarked to Naruto, are you sure you identified them correctly? They were weak and were chunin. Yup, I'm sure they were on page 11. Maybe they got rusty. Kakashi interrupted their conversation, ranks don't mean everything. They may have become chunin based on their stealth abilities. At first I did not sense them, that means they had jonin level stealth skills. If it wasn't for their lack of knowledge of the weather here, they would have been able to strike before I was ready. Kakashi gave a small shrug. I probably would have survived, but I could see it working on other jonin. And it would have been a piece of cake against a chunin or lower. Their jonin sensei continued his lecture on rankings. Luck also places a factor in chunin exams. Each village structures their exam in a different way. It wouldn't surprise me if the village hidden in the mist focuses on stealth as a key to passing their chunin exams. Kakashi also warned them that rank could be deceptive. There was a genin within Konoha that was probably more powerful than any chunin servicing in the Leaf Shinobi force. Naruto asked, why hasn't he been promoted? He has refused every promotion. Why? He has his reasons, but they aren't mine to share. They camped at night. Kakashi personally set a number of traps as well as cast a Jutsu over them to hide their presence. That done, they also set up watches. On the first watch, Sakura talked with Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, does it get easier? Kakashi looked at her, his gaze steady with a hint of compassion in his single visible eye. Yes. Killing is something that gets easier over time. You will always remember your first kill, but if you have a long and successful career as a shinobi, it will become second nature. Sakura was chilled at the thought of being used to killing people. You kill for a reason, to finish the mission. Ultimately, the mission is the security of Konoha. For your parents, your future children, your teammates, fellow shinobi and those who cannot protect themselves. By killing your enemies you keep your village safe, you save lives. Sakura looked like she wanted to say something, but Kakashi continued. Sakura, make no mistake, the demon brothers were destined to die the minute they attacked us. The one we left behind for Anbu to pick up will be interrogated and then executed. If you hadn't killed him, someone else would have. If you choose to quit the team and stop being a shinobi, someone else will fill that role, and blood will still be spilled. The copy Nin's gaze took on a harsher appearance. A refusal to kill, to not be a shinobi, does not lessen killing in the world. It only passes the burden on to someone else. Your squeamishness was a risk for Team 7 and you will emerge from this stronger. You are strong enough to bear the burden so someone else doesn't need to. Take pride in that, you bear the sacrifice of the bloody hand so someone else doesn't need to. Sakura thought about her sensei's words. His remarks were perfectly logical and they made sense. But some part of her soul fled from the cold logic that justified the dealing of death. The no longer innocent girl bowed her head, "There has to be a better way, sensei." Kakashi sighed, "I wish there was Sakura, but we live in a flawed world." Kakashi then grinned despite of the somber mood. "But maybe when your teammate is Hokage he can bring the naive dream that is peace to reality. After all, he is the #1 unpredictable ninja, maybe he'll just surprise us all." Kakashi's grin slowly vanished, not that anyone could really see it behind his mask, and his tone hardened. "Until that day comes, I expect you to be a shinobi and kill as you are ordered to." "Aye, Kakashi-sensei," Sakura responded. "I'll be there for my team. I'll kill when I'm instructed. But there is a better way and this team is going to find it." Sakura promised herself, and when her watch came to an end, she closed her eyes and went into a dreamless sleep. The night passed uneventfully. In the morning they continued their journey to Nami no Kuni. Before that occurred, Kakashi had all of his genin remove their weights. Naruto complained at first, but Kakashi harshly told them it was not up for discussion. "A Jonin threat will be faster than you, a fraction of a second can save your lives, take them off." The 3 genin removed their weights, and Kakashi sealed them in a scroll so it wouldn't weigh him down either. Their trip was not just on foot, they also had to travel via boat. All of them had mastered the water walking exercise, but Tazuna was with them, so they had to travel through conventional means. Team 7 arrived at the banks, their journey through the water had finished without incident. Naruto suppressed his urge to be jumpy, remembering Kakashi's earlier admonishment. Kakashi kept a wary out for any possible attack. No Jonin should be underestimated. His wariness was awarded as he felt a disturbance coming from the left side. A giant blade spun horizontally heading straight for Team 7. Kakashi yelled out, "Contact," and then dashed forward. He carefully analyzed the spin of the blade and caught the handle, driving the momentum downward. He buried the blade into the ground. Naruto instantly performed the Kage Bunshin, and Sasuke opened his Sharingan. Zabuza Mamachi grunted, he had not expected Kakashi to catch Kubikirabacho. Zabuza knew going into this fight it was going to be difficult. Kakashi was one of the Leaf's most powerful shinobi. But to have caught his own damn weapons like that. Kubikirabacho was not a light blade by any means, it has shocked him. Zabuza knew he had to be extremely careful when dealing with this opponent. The missing nin was surprised to see the Jonin's team spring into action. The blonde-haired shrimp had made 30 clones, and Mamachi could tell that they were actual shadow clones, as opposed to the regular variety. The shinobi was wearing bright kill me orange, surely he was a joke and not a threat. Once again Zabuza was surprised when the boy spoke in a calm and clear voice. "Zabuza, Jonin level threat, missing nin from Kurigakure." Naruto's thoughts raced as he continued, "Favors close combat, one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, skilled in the art of the silent kill. What are affinity?" The boy's tone was quick and clipped, but there was no hint of nerves. Zabuza began to let his chakra flow into the air, creating a dense fog. Kakashi was on him in an instant before the mist could even come together. A kunai was aimed at his heart. Zabuza was shocked at the speed, he quickly blocked the arm that was wielding the kunai. Kakashi's Sharingan eye saw the movement and was already lashing out with a taijutsu attack. Arms blurring with speed, he overcame Zabuza's defenses easy and smashed his kunai through his chest. Zabuza dispersed into a pile of water. The real Zabuza retrieved his blade. A tide of orange clones rushed at him, mixed in were images of Kakashi, the pink-haired one and the dark-haired boy. One swing of the blade demolished several of the clones. Much to Zabuza's annoyance, however, is that they hadn't come all at once, meaning he had another wave right after the first. The clones were a distraction, not a serious threat, but he could not afford to be distracted against an opponent of Kakashi's caliber. Tch, he is these brats' instructor, he'll want to save them, and I can then get an opening. As he thought this, he had to deal with Kakashi rushing him again. The Jonin was fast, faster than he was. Zabuza swung at Kakashi, and the Leaf Shinobi rolled underneath the attack. Mamachi pressed forward, kicking out as Kakashi completed the roll ready to strike. Kakashi instantly dodged to the right of his opponent, effectively sidestepping away and lashing out with kunai. First blood went to Kakashi as the shallow cut scraped Zabuza. Zabuza ignored the cut and pumped chakra into his feet and rushed the 3 genin and the bridge builder. He smashed through the Naruto clones like they weren't even there. Sasuke saw the Jonin move with speed he couldn't hope to match. His eyes did see where the attack was coming from and met it with the signature move learned from childhood. Pain. Gakakyu no Jutsu, fire release. Great fireball technique. In the same instant this was occurring, Naruto summoned a fresh batch of shadow clones. Sakura saw her crush blur through the hand signs and added the same attack, but this one aimed above Sasuke's. This would limit Zabuza's possible options, he could not leap over Sasuke's attack. The missing nin snarled at the unexpected elemental attack. Genin typically did not learn chakra manipulation so early. He leapt left avoiding the burning attack, however his forward momentum was stopped and Kakashi rushed him again. Zabuza swept Kubikirabacho in a great arc trying to force the Jonin back. Kakashi stopped in his tracks and threw the kunai at his opponent's leg at point-blank range. Zabuza twisted his body to the side awkwardly trying to avoid the blow, even so it still grazed him. A Naruto clone hit him with a flying kick while he was off balance. Zabuza was pushed forward the blow and had to hastily block Kakashi's Jutsu assault. The man forced himself in close, preventing Zabuza from effectively using the blade. Kakashi read every move Zabuza made was dominating him in the fight. Have to get to the water, he desperately thought. Zabuza had taken a blow to the ribs that made breathing slightly difficult, but he had finally put some separation between him and Masked Shinobi. He hastily performed the substation jutsu without hand seals. The rabbit was ignored by Kakashi, whose Sharingan eye instantly knew Zabuza was no longer there. Zabuza rushed forward into the water and started to make a pair of water clones when Kakashi erupted underneath the surface of the water. As soon as his hand broke contact with the surface of the water, Kakashi gathered chakra to form the Chidori. Zabuza was baffled at how the shinobi was waiting for him and how he avoided being sensed. His bafflement didn't last long as the deadly lightning chakra slammed into him. Zabuza had already started turning when he heard the sound of disrupted water, but he was unable to match the speed against the leaf shinobi. The Chidori slammed into his side, smashing up through his ribcage and turning his heart to pulp. Kakashi had swapped with his clone after his initial clash with Zabuza. The water affinity would mean that the demon in the mist would want to retreat to the water if he felt threatened. While it had been risky to depend on just alone to pose a challenge, it has been a calculated one. Zabuza was a dangerous shinobi, but even without the Sharingan Kakashi was confident he could win the fight. With the Sharingan even his clone could hold his own and pose a threat. And if a Naruto clone can start emitting chakra tails, then I see no reason why a clone can't also use the Sharingan. Team 7 was startled when another voice cried out. A shinobi in the clothing and mask of a hunter nin burst from hiding shouting, Zabuza. A Naruto clone shouted out, unknown shinobi, garbed as Kurigakure hunter nin. Naruto had used a clone to do it, Kakashi had given him that tip, if the clones were already out, have one of them say it instead of the original, since opponents would assume the original was speaking. Kakashi was surprised he had not sensed the additional shinobi in the area. Whoever it was had to be skilled in stealth and was therefore dangerous. The masked shinobi raced towards Zabuza. Kakashi created a water clone to intercept the shinobi. While the shinobi was dressed like a hunter nin, the reaction to Zabuza's death was out of character. Naruto's clones followed his lead and swarmed the newcomer. Haku responded with senbon needles thrown with deadly force. His world had just been shattered, he had failed Zabuza and had nothing left to live for, death in battle would end his worthless existence. He didn't even try to use his Kekkei Genkai. Haku wanted to die and Kakashi was taking no chances, the outcome was inevitable. In the first clash Kakashi rammed his kunai through Zabuza's apprentice's skull. Haku had felt nothing more than a sharp pain before the kunai ended his short life. Kakashi peered out with his Sharingan looking to see if any more surprises were waiting to jump out. Seeing none, all of Team 7 searched the bodies and discussed what happened. Naruto asked his sensei, I don't get it, who was she? The older shinobi corrected his pupil, actually it's a he. Naruto did a double take. What? Remember to see underneath the surface, Naruto. Until you can reliably see underneath you cannot even begin to see underneath the underneath as a proper shinobi should. Kakashi continued, as for why that is difficult to say. I would guess that Zabuza was important to this shinobi, based on age, possible an apprentice or sibling, though no siblings are listed in the bingo books. Based on the disguise I assume that if Zabuza got into trouble this one would come and try to save him. Because my attack killed Zabuza too quickly that didn't happen. Sasuke turned off his Sharingan. This was his first taste of a true shinobi battle. The killer intent had been massive, but having suffered through Kakashi's training as well as the fake assassination attempt by the Iwa Nin, he had held up well. With his Sharingan he had been able to follow the swordsman every step of the way. He knew his body would not have been able to keep up, so that was a humbling experience, however he knew with the training he was receiving, he would one day move at that level. Sakura was happy she had fulfilled her promise, it was partly due to her attack that Zabuza had to move the way he did. As she analyzed the battle she realized that even without her attack, the outcome would still have been the same. It did allow the battle to end more quickly. As her sensei had repeated over and over, a shinobi was dangerous until he was dead. Naruto had mixed feelings. He had fulfilled his role in the team by calling out the information on their opponents. His clones had been instrumental in distracting Zabuza. He had performed exactly the way his sensei had wanted him to. But he had not been satisfied. Naruto still had energy to burn, all he had done was make clones. Naruto had wanted to actually fight, to swing a punch or hit the enemy with a kick. It seemed vaguely cowardly to fight the way he had. Kakashi was a master at reading people, even without his Sharingan active. Naruto, you and the rest of the team were excellent, what is the matter? Naruto squinted, I guess this isn't the way I imagine fighting the enemy. That being a shinobi isn't about honor or bravery, it is about victory. You serve the village and not yourself or your idealized version of what it means to be ninja. Kakashi gave him an eye smile, and you won't become Hokage if you die while still a genin. Naruto perked up at the words, "Hi sensei. See Sakura. Kakashi thinks I can be Hokage." Sakura rolled her eyes, "You've gotten better, but you still have a long way to go." Naruto acknowledged her words, "You're right, but I'll make it there one day. Believe it." Kakashi walked over to the body of Zabuza and cut off his head. "And as an added bonus we'll be able to collect the bounty for a rank A missing and nin." Naruto blinked, he knew all the bounties in the bingo books. He was going to be rich. Sakura asked, "You did most of the work sensei, how are we going to split it?" Kakashi looked at his team, "We split it evenly. We are a team. Though, I do expect you to use at least some of the bounty on items useful to your career as a shinobi." Two Naruto clones carried Kubikirabacho and walked with the rest of the team and Tazuna. The team was much more cheerful after hearing about the bounty. Tazuna also felt less guilty about the whole affair, since at least the team would be compensated appropriately. He hoped there would be no more attacks before the bridge was complete. Chapter 7. Geto. Tazuna led Team 7 to his home. Kakashi's team met with Tazuna's family and learned of the sad fate of Kaiza, the hero that was executed by Geto's thugs. Naruto was enraged by the unfairness of the action. Sakura was also saddened by the story. When Inari stated that it was hopeless, that no one could defeat Geto, it was Sasuke who shook his head. "You're wrong. Geto is weak, he isn't even a shinobi. We defeated his hired shinobi on 2 occasions, if he messes with us he's dead." Inari stormed off in tears, not believing a word of it. Naruto looked to his sensei, "What is going to happen after we leave?" Kakashi preferred brutal honesty than sugared words. "Geto will either destroy the bridge or position thugs at one end of it to collect a toll." Tazuna stood up, "Geto will try, but once the bridge is built, they will see that we can stand up to Geto. They will fight him and his hired thugs." "Doubtful," Kakashi mildly responded. Tazuna quivered with rage, he had poured his heart and soul to building the Great Bridge. Many had thought he was a fool for doing so, but he would succeed, and no outsider shinobi was going to say otherwise. Sakura stepped in, "Sensei, we have to help these people." Kakashi looked at her, "Our job is to protect the bridge builder, not assassinate business tycoons." Tazuna stared at the jonin, his anger would do him no good. He collapsed into his chair and held his head in his hands. "Please get rid of Geto for us." Kakashi ignored the impassioned plea, "That wasn't the mission you hired our village for." "I'll add it to the mission." The Sharingan wielder shrugged, "That would need to be approved by the Hokage's office, and considering the financial state of the village, I doubt you would be able to gather the necessary funds." Naruto was furious, "So what? Geto needs to be taken out." The older shinobi looked at Naruto, "Does he now? Geto is no threat to Konoha, there is no reason to take him out." Sakura was moved by the village's plight and saw a way she could convince her sensei. "Kakashi sensei, Geto is a threat to the mission. He will probably hire more shinobi, we don't know if any other missing nin are nearby. If we take him out now it will cause our mission to be more likely to succeed." Naruto looked at his crush with his eyes shining. "Sakura is so smart," he thought to himself. Sasuke was mildly impressed, and his respect for the pink-haired Kunoichi went up a notch. Kakashi gave his cute genin an eye smile, "I didn't think you had learned your lesson so well Sakura." Sakura felt a chill pass through her. Just the other day she was vowing to find another way than killing, and here she was urging the assassination of someone. She shook her head, "There should be a better way. But you were right, we do live in a flawed world. And taking out Geto will make it better place. I want to do it, the team wants to do it, and it will increase the chances of our mission being success." Kakashi looked at his team, "Are all of you in agreement?" They all indicated their agreement. He turned to the bridge builder, "We'll kill Geto for you Tazuna, but in exchange when your land is back on its feet, you'll give Konoha favored trade status." Tazuna nearly had tears in his eyes, and he expressed his gratitude to the shinobi present. Tazuna didn't have any official position, but as the person who would build the bridge that connected the land and brought back prosperity, he would be able to get it accomplished. While the land of waves was poor currently, it could become an important if still minor trading partner with Konoha. Now is the time to act. Right now Geto will have no one but thugs and maybe some disgraced samurai. With that being the only threat, I will let the 3 of you plan and carry out the operation. While surprised, the 3 genin were confident they could handle it. I will tag along in case this Geto fellow has another A-rank shinobi with him. Your mission parameters are to ensure Geto dies tonight, the method is up to you. What you do with Geto's men is up to you. I will be observing, however I will cease helping beginning now." Team 7 looked at each other, and Naruto spoke up first, "Sakura-chan, maybe you should come up with a plan. You're really smart and I bet you could make the best plan." Sakura enjoyed being complimented even if it was from Naruto. Even before she joined the team it was nice to know that someone found her pretty and wanted to date her. Now that she had seen his work ethic and abilities, she valued his opinion even more. If only Sasuke-kun thought of me that way. Sakura looked to Sasuke, who simply inclined his head. Sakura began by finding out what they wanted to do. Should we try to avoid killing his mercenaries? Sasuke didn't care one way or the other and remained silent. Naruto looked up at Kakashi before looking back at Sakura. I don't think we need to kill them. Maybe just scare them a bit. Sakura liked the answer, she didn't want to kill anyone she didn't have to. I guess the next question is who should be the one to do it. Sasuke volunteered, I'll do it. For once Naruto decided not to compete with his rival. Sakura was relieved she wouldn't be the one to do it. Even if Geto deserved death, even if it had to be done, she didn't want to be the one to do it. She knew Kakashi would find her weak for thinking this, but he had left them in charge, and this is what the team had decided. Sakura formulated a plan. Geto may not know Zabuza is dead. Sasuke can henja Zabuza and I can henja his apprentice, and we can go in as if we were going to report what happened. Naruto can make clones of people in the area and be ready to jump in if something is dangerous. Naruto wanted to be closer to the action, but he didn't want to undercut Sakura's plan. It will do. We should go now, the longer we wait to report the more suspicious it will be. Sasuke's suggestion was practical and they were in agreement, but the plan formed. Sakura looked to the older Leaf Nin for confirmation. Kakashi just shrugged his shoulders. He had said he wouldn't provide guidance and wouldn't interfere unless another higher-ranked shinobi appeared. Sakura swallowed thickly and put on her disguise while Sasuke did the same. Naruto watched his two teammates head over to Geto's base of operations. He had 20 clones positioned around the area looking like civilians. He saw his teammates exchange words with some of the mercenaries guarding the front door. Whatever they said was enough to let them in. Naruto desperately wanted to know what was going on inside, but kept his cool and observed. Getting in had been easy for the two genin. Meeting Geto had been even easier. Geto had several mercenaries in the room, include 2 guards who looked like they knew how to handle a blade. What am I paying you for? That bridge builder is still alive. I thought you were supposed to be the demon in the mist, can't you do anything right? Sasuke smirked and activated his Sharingan. Without his weights he felt as light as a feather. His charge was noticed by the 2 guards who hastily tried to draw their blades in time to defend their master. Sasuke easily sped past them and jammed his kunai into Geto's chest. Pandemonium ensued. The 2 guards yelled out in rage and slashed at the Uchiha. Sasuke was disdainful at the slow telegraphed attacks. Maybe these 2 could bully civilians, but not a trained shinobi. With his Sharingan it was even easier as he sidestepped the blows. Sasuke knife-palmed one in the throat and doubled over the other with a spinning heel kick. His elbow smashed into the back of the man's neck with brutal force, taking him down. Sakura jumped to the side and began using a Jinjutsu on the remaining opponents. Sakura used the jutsu Kakashi had taught her. Meijin. Narukumi no Jutsu, demonic illusion hell viewing technique. Of course, unlike other jutsu, she didn't shout out the name of the attack since it would have diminished its effectiveness. Sakura didn't know what the other mercenaries saw, but evidently her jutsu was powerful enough to send them fleeing for their lives. Naruto saw the men fleeing with fright. He and his clones bum-rushed Geto's base to find both Sakura and Sasuke just fine. You had me worried, they were terrified. Sakura smiled, it was just a simple Jinjutsu, and almost any shinobi could have detected it. Sasuke retrieved his kunai from Geto's still warm body and walked out. Team 7 went back to Tazuna and informed them of their success. Tazuna was amazed at how quickly it had occurred. They had left less than an hour ago. Tazuna didn't know about shinobi. He didn't know that even academy students could kill a grown man easily. Geto was cheap, and so his hired help weren't skilled samurai who could hold their own with shinobi. Instead, Geto favored cheap brutes who could intimidate his victims. He would hire missing nin and then turn on them when they were wounded or careless. If things ever went sour, he just threw money at the problem. Incredibly impressed with the results, he told them they were more than welcome to stay at his home while the bridge was completed. They thanked the bridge builder and turned to Kakashi. Kakashi scratched his chin while the genin awaited his judgment of their plan and its execution. Not bad, not great, but not bad. It was faint praise from their sensei. Sakura asked, what was wrong with it? Against Geto and cheap thugs? Nothing really. Any plan would have worked. You used a basic jutsu to hide your appearance so you could get close and eliminate him. The direct approach worked in this case and minimized his chance to flee. Then what did we do wrong? Naruto angrily remarked. You didn't anticipate any problems. You were arrogant. If he did have a shinobi hidden as a mercenary, you wouldn't have known. Your approach was pure brute force. Sakura asked, how would you have done it? Kakashi answered, there were plenty of ways to do it, there is no one right way, but there are ways to minimize risk. Kakashi explained further, for example, Naruto could have used clones to henja Zabuza and his accomplice and do the same thing you two did. If there was unexpected shinobi resistance, no one would be in danger of dying. Another option would have been to ambush Geto when he left his base. In that scenario, it would be easier for you to retreat if necessary. All three genin could see the value of what Kakashi was teaching them. While the outcome was never in doubt, it would be a good idea to minimize risk whenever possible. Kakashi had told them in an earlier lesson that success on 99 missions didn't mean you wouldn't die on the 100th. Always minimize the odds of failure and death by approaching every mission with caution. Ego and arrogance led to death. Naruto still had issues with how cowardly it felt to be thinking about minimizing his risk in every way possible. Kakashi had a sixth sense for picking out such thoughts. Naruto, we've had this discussion before. You owe it yourself, Konoha, and most importantly your team to avoid dying. I am not asking you to be a coward if a teammate is in danger, I expect you to put your life on the line to save them. But don't take unnecessary chances. What if you took an unnecessary chance and your teammate rightly tried to save you? And then they become injured or even killed because of your arrogance. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto replied. Naruto still didn't like it, but he would treat it like eating vegetables. A necessary evil, but one that would ensure he could best protect his team and one day become Hokage, so he could protect the entire village. Kakashi had his team turn in for the night, he still had them set up watches. It was good practice for his team, and it never hurt to be cautious. Before they did so, he returned the weights to his team. All three of them eagerly put them on. All of them had already improved their strength and stamina through the use of the weights and wanted to continue to get stronger. Break. The next morning they ate a delicious breakfast. The townsfolk greeted them eagerly. They were treated as heroes, they had ended the reign of Gedo. Gedo's thugs had fled the town that night. Not all of them knew what happened. Some claimed a monster had been unleashed, others claimed that Shinobi had ripped people apart with their bare hands. Ninjutsu meant that the stories were even more outlandish than what had actually happened. At the bridge there was no shortage of volunteers to help. Kakashi also had Naruto make dozens of clones to help move supplies and materials. With the additional help and the clones, Tazuna would be able to get the bridge finished ahead of schedule. Kakashi continued to train his team while the bridge was constructed. His training was focused almost exclusively on Taijutsu and team tactics. Sasuke was the undisputed champion in the sparring within the squad. His Sharingan allowed him to read moves through the tiny changes in muscles as someone prepared an attack. With the weights on, both he and Naruto were at similar speeds. In addition to the Sharingan, Sasuke's Taijutsu was simply superior to Naruto's. However, Naruto had more weight on than Sasuke. A fact that irked the Uchiha. How was the dead last able to surpass him? He had demanded Kakashi up the weights, and Kakashi refused. And don't even think about doing it yourself, you'll increase the chance of sprains and fractures by moving too quickly. If you exhaust your muscles you'll do more harm than good. Then how is he able to take all the extra weight? Kakashi gave him an eye smile. That's a great question, Sasuke. Naruto is able to heal faster than others, the reason for that is a secret. One that I am going to encourage Naruto to share, unfortunately it is not a technique that can be copied. Sasuke's brain worked to solve what the secret was. He asked his sensei, is it a Kekkei Genkai like the Sharingan? It was a reasonable guess. It would explain the greater healing ability and the need for keeping it a secret. Kakashi merely smiled beneath the mask and responded, I've said all that I planned to on this Sasuke. Sasuke wasn't happy, but if it was a Kekkei Genkai then it didn't matter. It just meant he would have to work harder, he couldn't afford to let the class dope surpass him. Sasuke was glad that Naruto wasn't weak, he would be someone he could measure himself against. And as Kakashi had pointed out early in their training, having a strong team could only work to his benefit. Naruto was better than Sakura in their spars. However, Sakura becoming incredibly adept at avoiding blows. Facing the quick and brutally efficient Sasuke had taught her how to minimize her movements. Her blocks were precise and close to her body, if the attack was too strong she smoothly glided away. Without the weights Naruto could have finished her quickly, but with them it was next to impossible to pin her down and win the bout. The only reason he would end up winning is when Sakura finally became too winded to move as fast as she could. Within the week the bridge was complete and Tazuna thanked Kakashi and his team. Even Inari was smiling again. His grandpa was safe and the man who had murdered his surrogate father was killed. The strong killed the weak, that was life, but his amazing granddad had found people stronger than Gedo and his money. With the final wave, Team 7 began their return trip home. Chapter 8. Reporting home. The four shinobi of Konoha returned to their village quickly and without incident. Naruto couldn't wait to get the best ramen in town. As he was about to dash off, Kakashi reminded him they had to report back at the Hokage Tower first. But ramen. Kakashi's one visible eye twitched violently. Every time he thought he was making progress, the three reported directly to the Hokage. Sarutobi had a pipe in his mouth as he saw Team 7 enter to make their report. The first report had led to the mission being upgraded to a rank B mission. The second report, after the battle that led to the death of Zabuza, turned it into an A-ranked mission. Hiruzen had great confidence in Kakashi's abilities, but really this was a bit much for a young genin team's first mission. Kakashi made his report efficiently and effectively. The Hokage's eyebrows shot up at having the genin kill so quickly. He had wanted them to retain their innocence a little longer. He shook himself out of his thoughts as the elite jonin continued the debrief. When Kakashi finished, the third Hokage smiled at the four shinobi. "You've exceeded my expectations, well done." Kakashi took the praise in stride while his genin team basked in it. Kakashi could tell even Sasuke was affected by the words, though he hid it well. Naruto's smile was an ear-to-ear grin. Sakura was more demure, but she positively glowed at the praise from the village's legendary leader. The Hokage dismissed everyone but Kakashi. Naruto invited the other two for ramen. Sasuke shrugged and agreed. Kakashi would expect him to be part of the team. With Sasuke going, it made Sakura's choice a foregone conclusion. All three of the genin headed to Ramen Ichiraku. Hiruzen looked at Kakashi. "I understand you don't want it in writing that Sasuke has unlocked the Sharingan." "Hi, if no one knows Sasuke has developed the Sharingan, he will be better protected. A live Sharingan can make him a target. Furthermore, it always helps for a shinobi to be underestimated." The Hokage chewed on his pipe and thought. "I'll keep it out of the written reports. I understand caution, but only a few people have access to the reports. Sometimes your wariness is more like paranoia, Kakashi-san." The masked jonin looked at the Hokage and replied with simple logic, "If I take precautions that aren't needed, it is a minor inconvenience. But if I take precautions when it is needed, it could make all the difference. Any edge, no matter how small, that will help them survive, I will give them." He couldn't find fault with the argument, so he agreed to do as his jonin asked. The written copies of the report were different than what had been orally communicated. Most everything was the same, but the Sharingan was absent completely, as was any mention of the genin helping Kakashi deal with Zabuza. With a bow, Kakashi left Sarutobi alone with his thoughts. Kakashi took the pay for the mission and also turned in the sealing scroll that had Zabuza's head. Zabuza's blade was also given up, but instead of using it as part of the bounty, it would go to the care of Konoha, where it would find a worthy wielder. Kakashi would split the money with his team in the next morning. For now, it was time to see if the latest Icha had arrived while he was gone. Break. Naruto was ecstatic. Not only was he finally getting his favorite food at Ramen Ichiraku, but both of his teammates would be with him. Naruto introduced them to Teuchi and his daughter Ayame. Sasuke said little while Sakura introduced herself properly. Soon they were all eating delicious ramen. While neither was as enthusiastic as Naruto, it was tasty and they enjoyed it. After completing the ramen, they went their separate ways. Naruto returned to his home. Since placing a few traps, the home had not been vandalized. The fact that he was a shinobi now meant that he could legally assault someone for breaking into his residence. Naruto made a dozen clones that began reading books. Naruto considered what he would like to with the money he would soon be receiving as his share of the bounty and the A-ranked mission. His com used new furniture, but Naruto honestly didn't care about that. He wanted to get stronger, he wanted to purchase something that would enhance his skills. Kakashi had told him about chakra blades that would be very expensive but extremely useful for a wind affinity like himself. Naruto also thought about getting alternative weaponry. Most shinobi favored small weaponry that allowed for easy carrying and stowing, so that hand signs could be used at a moment's notice. He did like the thought of wielding a katana or a staff. From reading historical battles, he knew his Jiji used a staff in battle that he summoned. Naruto decided to go shopping at a weapons store and see what might be effective for him. He left his clones to continue their reading while he used his henge to look like a nondescript teenage shinobi. That done, he went into town, avoiding all of the glares and hate he had been subjected to for most of his life. The young genin was still kicking himself for not thinking of this plan prior to Kakashi telling him. Naruto found himself browsing a weapon shop. Like a kid in a candy store, Naruto drooled over the potential additions to his shinobi arsenal. The shopkeeper allowed him to handle the various weapons, and Naruto tried a few moves with each of them. Laughter interrupted once one of his practice strikes. He turned and found a young kunoichi shaking her head. "You are holding that katana all wrong." Naruto flushed, thankful the henge hid his embarrassment. "I never trained with any weapons other than the academy standard ones," he defended himself. Naruto recognized the girl. She was a fellow genin a year ahead of his graduating class. Her name was Tenten, and she had a reputation for knowing her way around weapons. Naruto's clones had learned a lot just observing the village, and this was one of the little facts that came to mind. Tenten showed Naruto the proper way to hold the blade. Naruto had an idea. "Hey Tenten, how about you some weapons and help me pick out something that will be useful for me?" Tenten looked at the shinobi she had never seen until now and asked, I have my own training to do, plus you haven't even introduced yourself. Who are you?" Naruto considered lying, but he suspected the keen-eyed kunoichi would be able to detect the henge and any falsehood. Instead, he leaned in close. "I'm Naruto, part of Team 7, a lot of the shop owners don't like me, so I use a henge." Tenten was surprised that Naruto was in disguise. Naruto had been held back, so for a brief time he had actually been in Tenten's class. A subtle Naruto instead of a bright orange overly excitable Naruto sparked her curiosity. Tenten said, alright, let's do this. I'll show you a variety of weapons for a couple of hours and you tell me what you've been up to these days. Naruto laughed, alright. Let's head the practice field right now. Both of them left the shop and proceeded to the nearest training field. Along the way Naruto regaled Tenten with how awesome it was to be a shinobi. About how they went on their first mission outside of the village and how it had turned into a rank A mission. Naruto did manage to hold back anything related to his and his teammates' training. While Tenten was clearly a fellow Leaf shinobi, Kakashi had warned him about sharing news about his abilities. Spies existed in the shinobi world and one never knew who was listening. Tenten didn't ask about that anyhow. Instead she was fascinated by Zabuza's weapon, Kubikirabacho. Naruto didn't know why she was so obsessed with it, but he answered all of the questions she had. He didn't really know much about the weapon, Kakashi had been the one to do nearly all of the battle in that conflict. When they arrived at the practice field Tenten showed the Jinchuriki all types of weapons. Naruto was in awe at the arsenal she pulled out. Several of the weapons were not practical in his mind, but she wielded them with a grace that was astounding. Tenten had him test out several of the weapons and adjusted his forms and grip as needed. Are you a close-range fighter or do you prefer to stay in the back? That was an interesting question. The immediate answer was a ranged fighter due to Kakashi's lessons. But Naruto had been working on looking underneath the surface. While Kakashi would want his team to stay back and minimize their risk, he expected Naruto to use his clones in close combat. Any weapon skill he learned could be transferable to his clones. Naruto answered her, I'm in between, I don't mind getting in close though. Tenten frowned at the non-answer, but then shrugged. In that case let's set you up with what you had in the store, a katana. It's straightforward but allows for a longer reach than a kunai, but still allows combat in close quarters. They spent the last 30 minutes going through weapon drills. Naruto thanked Tenten profusely and declared, with this extra training I'll have all I need to be the next Hokage. Tenten rolled her eyes but accepted the thanks with good grace. Naruto asked her if she knew any good books or scroll techniques he could pick up for using a katana. She named a book he could pick up that showed the basic stances and a generic fighting style. Anything too far advanced is typically held secret by families or clans. Don't let that stop you though. Come up with your own style and your opponent will be in trouble because they won't have ever seen it before. Naruto again thanked her and returned to the shop to purchase a pair of katanas. Having backup equipment was another rule that his sensei had drilled into him. At the shop he also requested the chakra blades. Chakra blades were made of material that absorbed chakra and were rare. The store didn't have them, but if Naruto paid for them upfront, he would order a pair of kunai made of the chakra absorbent material. Naruto would have to come back the next day to put in the order, as Kakashi hadn't split the proceeds from the bounty yet. Naruto returned home excited about showing off his new weapon to the team tomorrow. Break. Sakura had enjoyed the meal with the team. She loved her Sasuke-kun, and Naruto wasn't nearly as annoying as he used to be. The team was starting to feel like a family, and she wanted to do all she could to protect it. It was time to make a decision. Jinjutsu or training and medical jutsu. Sakura made her decision based on what had happened in the battles they had been in. Death was swift, death was often instantaneous. Haku died to a kunai to the brain. Zabuza died due to his heart being obliterated by Kakashi's Chidori. No medical jutsu could fix that. Threats to the team could be fatal before she even got a chance to heal. But what if she could prevent an attack from landing in the first place? What if she could use her superior chakra control to ensure her teammates didn't even get hit? With these thoughts in mind she chose her specialty, it would be in Jinjutsu. Ninjutsu was a rare art in Konoha. The primary users had been the Uchiha clan through the use of their Dojutsu. That path required the Sharingan, a clear dead end. The most famous Ninjutsu user currently in the village was Kurenaya. The problem was that she had her own Genin team, and Jonin instructors should put all of their efforts on improving their own team. That went double for the first year as a Jonin. Kakashi would absolutely train her, but she knew that was not his specialty. Kakashi was a master at ninjutsu and an absolute terror with taijutsu, but his jinjutsu was limited. Sakura would need someone else to help supplement her training in this if she was to develop it to the point where it could actually fool dangerous opponents. Sakura decided to put her ear to the ground and see if she could find a jonin who was skilled with ninjutsu who could tutor her a couple of times a week. Between that and the training Kakashi would give her, she should be able to make significant progress. Her share of the bounty would be used to pay for the lessons. Sakura felt a burst of energy inside of her. She had confidence in her choice, she was not going to be a liability to her team. Break. Team 7 met up again the next day. As was typical they quickly and efficiently completed a D-ranked mission and then turned to training. Kakashi talked to them about what they would want to tackle next on their training agenda. Kakashi was approving of Sakura's choice to specialize in Jinjutsu. He told her to continue working to improve her taijutsu and conditioning with weights. On that subject he had purchased a new set of weights for all of them. These weights at first were incredibly light until they pushed chakra into them. These seals are designed to be only accessed by yourselves, only increase the weight when I advise you to, but in a fight you can quickly release the excess weight. Additional when we travel too much weight and you'll snap tree limbs as you leap from branch to branch. All three of the genin also had their weights increased. Kakashi created a pair of clones so he could have some one-on-one time with each of his students. The original went with Sasuke, he was going to teach the last Uchiha the original move he had created. The Chidori. Sasuke had seen it in action and knew it was a fantastic kill move, it would burst through most defensive barriers, especially earth which was often used for defense. Kakashi cautioned Sasuke on the use of it. Never use this on a comrade or elite shinobi. This jutsu should only be used on the enemies of Konoha. Sasuke promised to obey this command. Sasuke also learned his chakra reserve would only allow him to use it 2 times before being exhausted. With constant training you should be able to increase the number of times you can use this jutsu to 3 fairly quickly. With the aid of the Sharingan it was easy for Sasuke to pick up the jutsu and by the end of the day he had successfully performed the jutsu and slammed it into the earth leaving a crater. Excellent work, now on to your Taijutsu training. Sasuke pushed his groaning muscles the limit with the new chakra weights. He was still able to maintain the perfection that Kakashi required in Taijutsu forms. He was determined not to fall behind Naruto with weights and speed. But Sakura he taught her some more basic ninjutsu applications. Most ninjutsu operated on sight, but a few operated on auditory senses. The auditory ones were extraordinarily rare but very effective since it meant the victim could be affected before even laying sight on the caster. I don't have any auditory ninjutsu in my repertoire, it will be a long shot if your tutor has one either. Sight ninjutsu is still amazingly powerful. Remember on this team you don't necessarily need to isolate and control an individual for a significant length of time, as soon as the ninjutsu has them one of us should move to eliminate the threat instantly. The clone with Naruto observed him use the katana. Naruto explained his reasoning as well as Kakashi looked on. I need to get good with this so my clones can use it well. I'll still keep my hands free for using jutsu. Kakashi praised Naruto for the plan, good thinking Naruto, I'm glad you thought ahead of this. I'm also glad you are putting in the order for the chakra blades, with your wind affinity, those chakra kunai will be devastating. Kakashi also taught Naruto a new jutsu. You are already familiar with Fuden. Tatapa, wind release. Great breakthrough. I am going to show you a modification of this technique. Naruto jumped in the air with excitement and new jutsu. The clone's visible eye twitched. He doubted he would ever get used to Naruto's un-shinobi-like behavior. He also doubted he could break him of the habit without breaking the boy completely down. Kakashi clapped his palms together. Fuden. Rapusho, wind release. Gale palm, a burst of wind pushed out from around Kakashi in all directions. Naruto was shoved backward a dozen feet but landed agilely. This attack, unlike Tatapa, has a 360-degree arc. Using this will allow you to stop projectiles from all directions. You can also use it as a surprise in close quarters, but it doesn't have the destructive potential of Tatapa. Naruto eagerly made a score of clones and began practicing. As always Kakashi was amazed at the sheer level of chakra Naruto had. Most shinobi, including himself, had to be cautious of using too much ninjutsu. Naruto had just left the academy and had chakra reserves that surpassed most jonin. While he'd started at pathetically abysmal levels, it had grown much better. The shadow clone technique had got Naruto's chakra control to appropriate levels in a fraction of the time it would otherwise have taken. Overall Kakashi was very pleased with the progress of Team 7. He didn't want to interrupt their training too much by tackling missions away from the village. However, he did want them to have more exposure to real shinobi missions. For the next 2 days he would train them hard and he would scan the mission list for anything that was relatively close by that was a C or B rank. Normally no genin would be going on B rankings, but he knew he could convince the old man that his team could handle it. In all honesty, any B rank would be a piece of cake for Kakashi to solo, his mission success rate on A missions was quite nearly flawless. Regardless of rank, the important part of the mission was that it be close to Konoha. It was difficult to train at the level he demanded his team to train at on the road. As was typical, Kakashi completed his own training after Team 7 split. Kakashi practiced what he preached. He would place his own chakra weights and continue to hone his own body. He also liked to experiment with jutsu combinations and find new uses for them. After 3 hours of training he cooled down and drifted on to rest. Kakashi felt good about his team's progress and eagerly looked forward to see how his 3 genin would develop. What if Naruto has all elemental affinities? Council bashing. Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.